It is exactly 6 o'clock. This is the second regular meeting of the Ormond Beach City Commission, and we are in Commission Chambers. We're starting a little earlier for this meeting than we normally start our meetings, but just want to make sure we have enough time to get everybody in and make sure everybody has an opportunity to be heard. On the Tomoka Reserve item, we have 24 cards in so far. If anyone else wishes to speak, it's important that you fill out a card. And if you'll see the clerk and get those cards to her, we will get you on the docket to speak. You have 3 minutes to speak, and you'll direct your comments to the chair. We ask that you be polite and courteous, all parties, and I don't think we'll have really any issues with that. I hope you felt welcomed as you came in this evening, even though it's a little bigger crowd than usual. Our planning staff served as the greeters tonight, and hopefully they told you about the cards as well. And I want to introduce the folks who are sitting up in front of you. To my right, your left, we have Recording Secretary Taylor Lockhart. Next is our City Clerk, Susan Dodderis. Then we have Commissioner from Zone 1, Lori Tolland.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome.
Our Zone 2 Commissioner, Travis Sargent.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome.
To my left and your right, our Zone 3 Commissioner, Susan Persis.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome.
Our Deputy Mayor and Zone 4 Commissioner, Harold Briley.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome.
City Manager, Joyce Shanahan. Assistant City Manager, Claire Whitley. City Attorney, Randy Hayes. And then we also have with us this evening our chiefs, Chief Jesse Godfrey, Ormond Beach Police Department, and making sure we're complying with the fire rules is Chief Bailey. Chief, thank you for being here. For those of you listening online, I'm Mayor Bill Partington. At this time, if you would make sure your cell phones are silenced, and we'll have the invocation given by Pastor Cord Bear, Tomoka Christian Church. If you'll please rise for that, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Father, grateful for blessing of this day, the breath of life, the gift of your love. It's an honor to serve people, and yet the temptation in service is to lord it over them. My prayer for this city council and for this community, Father, is that we would serve each other to the ultimate end and the benefit of those that live here. Ultimately, God, that's the way that you served us by sending your son Jesus. We're grateful for him. And we pray that in his name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd ask our victim advocate for the Ormond Beach Police Department, Evelyn Robustini, to come forward. And Evelyn, I don't know if you're going to bring anybody up with you or if the chief wants to come up as well. This is a National Crime Victims' Rights Week. And Evelyn, I want to present that to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all you do for the city of Ormond Beach and our police department. Whereas the victims' rights movement has resulted in the passage of laws at the local, state, and federal levels that guarantee victims the right to meaningfully participate and use their voice in the criminal justice process. And whereas incorporating communities, existing experts, and trusted sources of support develops a criminal justice system response that is accessible and appropriate for all victims of crime. With the unwavering support of their communities, victim service providers, advocates, law enforcement officers, and other allied professionals can help survivors find their justice by enforcing their rights. And whereas the theme for 2024, Options, Services, and Hope for Crime Survivors, highlights the importance of creating safe environments for crime victims to share their experiences and seek justice. By honoring the rights of victims to be treated with fairness, dignity, and respect, we can rebuild their trust in the criminal justice and social service systems. And whereas National Crime Victims' Rights Week provides an opportunity to recommit to listening to crime survivors in every space where decisions are made that could impact them. And whereas the City of Ormond Beach is dedicated to strengthening victims and survivors in the aftermath of crime, building resilience in our communities and victim responders, and working for a better future for all victims and survivors. Now, therefore, I, Bill Partington, on behalf of the entire Ormond Beach Commission of the City of Ormond Beach, do hereby proclaim April 21st through 27th, 2024 as National Crime Victims' Rights Week in the city, reaffirming the city's commitment to creating a safe space for all crime victims and expressing appreciation for all community members who are committed to improving the response to all victims. Thank you, Evelyn, for all you do.
So the theme is Options, Services, and Hope for Crime Survivors. Ask all of us, friends, family members, neighbors, colleagues, community leaders, victim service providers, criminal justice practitioners, and health professionals how we can help crime survivors. Hope looks different to all of us. However, it is safe to say it is a universally motivating concept. It helps to strengthen our physical and mental health. It allows us to develop healthy relationships. It fosters a sense of humor. It heals us. It fights fear. It infuses joy into our lives, and it opens our eyes to opportunity. As a community, I ask that you join us during National Crime Victims' Rights Week 2024 as we commit to creating safe environments for crime survivors to share their experiences. By doing so, we are able to offer support, options for life-saving services, and most importantly, hope.
Congratulations. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce
Arletha Baxter. I am a 20-year foster parent, and I focus on eradicating human trafficking.
I'm Erin Shannon. I am the Sexual Assault Services Coordinator for Family Life Center, and I oversee services for Volusia and Flagler County.
I'm Daisy Guerrero, and I'm the Victim Advocate Coordinator at Holly Hill Police Department, and I specialize mainly in helping victims of domestic violence and sexual violence.
Thank you all. Yep, we appreciate everything you do. All right, we have 2 cards for audience remarks, and we will start with Suzanne Scheiber.
Good evening. Suzanne Scheiber, resident of Ormond Beach. On March 15, a group of Ormond Beach residents scheduled an appointment with Clay Irvin, the Director of Growth Resource Management. We scheduled it to get answers to questions concerning the process for the fuel terminal. No one told us until we arrived that it was a conflict of interest for Clay to meet with us. We ended up meeting with Attorney Soria, Planning Department Manager Amy Michaels, and Public Information Officer Clayton Jackson. A binder was turned in that day containing compiled letters of opposition, and again this evening at the 4 o'clock meeting at the Volusia County Council. The letters were from the following: the Volusia County School Superintendent, the Sheriff Chitwood, official statement from the City of Ormond Beach, Mayor Partington, the Ormond Beach Chamber of Commerce, the joint statement of opposition from the Ormond Beach Fire Department and the Ormond Beach Police Department, the Volusia County League of Cities, State Representative Tom Leake, Bear Creek HOA, Pine Run HOA, and the Sierra Club, and retired Judge Joe Will. We noted that all departments within the City of Ormond Beach are under the umbrella of the city letter, as that's what we were understanding. We also turned in 4,400 signatures from Volusia County citizens who signed the fuel terminal petition in opposition, and those were in print. In addition, we turned in a letter signed by 146 Bear Creek residents that was sent to the FAA in August of 2023, expressing their concerns about the fuel terminal as it related to the airport. The reason I'm here this evening is to request 5 letters of opposition from Ormond Beach citizens' committees. Citizen-led committees are the voices of the residents of Ormond. They are not departments or city staff of the city. They represent us, and as such are important to the very public circumstances that we find ourselves in with a 20 million gallon fuel terminal. We're requesting letters of opposition from the Airport Committee, the Leisure Services Committee, the Budget Committee, the Quality of Life Committee, and the Planning Board. Please consider the significance of this request. Many letters and statements were sent to Volusia County government over several months. Compiling the letters and handing them in an organized manner to the Development Review Committee was a strong statement. It is completely appropriate to request the citizen-led committees weigh in on the issue that will have an impact on the substance of the very reason they meet in the first place. We will be waiting for your response, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Lindsay Pate.
Good evening, Lindsay Pate, proud Ormond Beach resident. I just want to take a few minutes and say thank you for everything that you guys do through your Parks and Rec and Leisure Department. I always call Ormond like the Hallmark town, but I really do mean it. And I think the investment that you guys have made in our youth services, our Park and Rec services, and even the services for people of all ages really has paid off. And I spend a lot of nights at the ball fields or at the basketball courts or at the parks. And I just want to say thank you for continuing to invest in things that my family uses and a lot of our residents use. And I hope that you continue pouring into those services, because my family is reaping the benefits, and ultimately they might be adults here and want to bring their kids back here and to live. So I just want to say thank you for everything you guys do.
Thank you. Commission, the minutes from the April 2nd, 2024 meeting have been sent to you for review, also posted to the city's website. Any additions, deletions, or corrections?
May I move approval?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and we'll show those being approved unanimously. The action proposed for each item on the consent agenda is stated. Unless a commissioner removes an item from the consent agenda, no individual item voting will occur, and a single motion will approve all items. Commission, does any member wish to pull any of the agenda items?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull item 7C.
Anyone else?
Just comments later.
Just need a motion to
Mr. Mayor,
approve absent
move
7C.
approve the consent agenda minus item 7C.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the vote.
Commissioner Tolland?
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent?
Yes.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Commissioner Briley?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes. 7C.
Resolution number 2024-58, a resolution authorizing the execution of Amendment number 1-2024 to that contract awarded to Austin Outdoor LLC DBA Yellowstone Landscape regarding grounds maintenance services by increasing the contract price by $14,237 and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2024-58, read by title only.
Thank you. Just need a motion and a second for
So moved.
discussion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Commissioner Sargent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take this opportunity with this contract. Here we are adding some services, but this contract's approaching almost $2 million. It just seems like a lot of money. I don't know the last time it was bid out. As I drove here, actually yesterday I was stuck in traffic by the grind, and I looked over, and once again I see the mulch pouring off of the medians into the roadway. I think at our next budget workshop or whenever it's appropriate, we need to think maybe about getting all the mulch out of there and maybe putting grass. The medians closer to Gold's Gym, that area, all have grass in them with very little mulch. There's no mulch running into our waterways. I just want to take this opportunity with this contract. I will be voting for it because we are adding the services. But in the future, we either need to look at bidding this and possibly looking at redoing our medians because I'm not pleased with them. There's weeds all over the place, and for $2 million, I think our residents deserve better. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Commission, any other comments? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Sargent?
Yes.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Commissioner Briley?
Yes.
Commissioner Tolland?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Sargent. I think through the budget process would be the appropriate time to address some of those issues, and maybe staff can get back to us as far as possible bidding processes, or if there's other contractors out there that might even be able to bid on our situation. With that, I'll go to Commissioner Tolland for comments on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. Since Commissioner Sargent talked about the one that he pulled, this is the right opportunity just to remind the commission that maybe we should talk to Yellowstone about replacing mulch with native plants, ground cover that won't have to, it would be an initial cost, but it would be less of a cost in the long run, and more sustainable for the environment. The other comments I have is on 7A. I'm grateful for the additional funding available to address the stormwater and flooding. The city cost is minimal compared to the state and FEMA dollars that we're receiving. On B, it makes sense for us to match and utilize the money authorized by the state for design of a downtown center. I look forward to that discussion on the location in the future. And that is all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tolland. Anyone else? All right. We will begin the public hearings. I will open the public hearings, and there's been a request sent via email to continue 8A. Commission, if there's...
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to continue item 8A.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Commissioner Briley?
Yes.
Commissioner Tolland?
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes, and thank you for that, Commission. As far as the rest of the public hearings, staff did request that we move 8C, 8D, 8E, 8F, and 8G ahead of the 8B item, I think with the understanding that the 8B is the meatier, probably more time-consuming item. If there's no objection to that, I would ask for a quick motion.
I move to move items C, D, E, F, and G above item B.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Do you need a roll call on that, Randy, or is it just a voice vote okay?
Voice vote.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign, and we'll show that passing unanimously. 8C.
Resolution number 2024-59, a resolution authorizing the execution and issuance of a first amended development order for a special exception regarding Tomoka Christian Church located at 1450 Hand Avenue within the SR Suburban Residential Zoning District. to allow the construction of a standalone two-story building of approximately 20,000 square feet, establishing conditions and expiration date of approval, and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2024-59, read by title only.
Thank you, Susan, and I'll ask our planning director, Stephen Spraker, to speak on this item.
Good evening, Stephen Spraker, Planning Director. This is a request for a special exception at Tomoka Christian Church, which is at 1450 Hand Avenue. In 2008, there was a resolution that approved the principal structure, which was a 61,000 square foot house of worship over 23 acres. The current request is to do a building of approximately 20,000 square feet that will house a variety of uses that are church related. It is located behind the greenbelt. This would be Hand Avenue at the top of the screen, so it's located behind the existing greenbelt buffer. This would be the existing building of 20,000 square feet. It's approximately 62 feet to the property line. They do have loading zones. They have additional off-street parking, unimproved, located in the back, and they do meet the parking calculation, as well as their natural preservation, which is exceeded. The planning board reviewed this request and recommended approval with a unanimous vote of 6-0. The applicants and the church are both here. If there are any questions, they're available.
Thank you. Any questions for the planning director? I don't have any cards, Commission.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions of the applicant? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Tolland?
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent?
Yes.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Commissioner Briley?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes. 8D.
Resolution number 2024-60, a resolution authorizing the execution and issuance of a development order for a special exception regarding the 7-Eleven convenience store located at 3 North Young Street to allow 2 electronic changeable copy signs for the retail prices of gasoline, establishing conditions and expiration date of approval, and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2024-60, read by title only.
Thank you. And I'll ask Planning Director Stephen Spraker to speak on this item.
Again, Stephen Spraker, Planning Director. This is a special exception under our code. The electronic changeable copy signs for gasoline is allowed through a special exception process. This presentation actually covers all 3 applications in one. There has been a review. The application is consistent with the Land Development Code. The application seeks to take the existing reader boards and then make them electronic changeable copy signs. This is 460 South Atlantic Avenue, again, taking the existing framework of the reader board and making them electronic. 1546 West Granada. The planning board recommended approval with a 5-1 vote for all 3. The recommendation against the item was to allow electronic changeable copy signs in a broader fashion and not require the special exception. So they were for the concept, they just wanted it as a different way. Staff is recommending approval and available for any questions.
You do.
I just want
Commissioner Sargent.
How often will these be changing? And they won't be flashing, correct?
No, our ordinance requires them to stay solid. I believe it's 6 hours. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So D, E, and F, it's just 3 different locations.
Correct. The same 7-Eleven, but 3 different. One is 3 North Young, 15 West Granada, and then 460.
What you said for D covers all 3, essentially.
Yes, this presentation covers all 3.
Thank you. Commissioner Persis.
Yeah, I was looking at Exhibit C, the electronic changeable copy signage conditions, and I think all of those are acceptable. So I just wanted to let you know that. Good job.
Deputy Mayor Briley.
Mr. Mayor, I'll just go on record saying I think this is pretty much standard practice with gas stations going to electronic type signs, so I have no problem with it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Commissioner Tolland.
So I don't have a problem with the resolutions that we're asking for right now, but I do have some comments about electronic signage. When would you like me to make those comments? After the vote?
Whenever. I mean, now's,
All right.
now's
Well,
fine.
so I'll speak to you all now then. I understand that the state has set the regulations for retail gas to be able to be displayed in electronic signage through special exception, and I personally like the special exception idea, even though it does seem very, takes a lot of time for the planning board and for us to go through it. My comment or questions whether other types of businesses shouldn't be afforded electronic signage as well. And I was on the planning board. I know with Mr. Spraker, we had a lot of discussions about signage, electronic signage, and its limitations in what was appropriate in what places. I would like to ask staff if you agree, Commission, to revisit the electronic signage, especially given that technology has changed for the better, offering more options now. That's including like the light intensity, the backlighting, the changeable timing. I mean, when we first reviewed it on the planning board, it was a while ago. I personally don't want flashing neon lights in a town like that. I said, but I think electronic signs can be attractive and replace some of the aging signs that you see in our corridors that you can barely read now. And it's just the fairness factor as well. So if the commission thinks we should direct staff to look at it, maybe that's the way to go and workshop it. But if you don't agree, then, and Mr. Riley.
Deputy Mayor?
I would 100% concur with Commissioner Tolland on this. I remember this came into the planning board back in even the early 2000s. We allowed the Trail Shopping Center to have a changeable copy sign, electronic sign. We put some restrictions on it. They pretty much held by those restrictions for a long time. I do think that when you have a plaza where people are trying to find different stores that are within a plaza, and you have so many stores, you can't put each little sign up there, especially when you've got, 45, 50 mile an hour traffic on some of our major roadways. They can't see what's in there. So I do think it's worth reviewing again and taking another look. Thank you.
Thank you. Good deal. All right, Commission, I don't have any cards on 8D. I just need a motion and a second.
I move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Briley,
Yes.
Commissioner Tolland,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. 8E.
Resolution number 2024-61, a resolution authorizing the execution and issuance of a development order for a special exception regarding the 7-Eleven convenience store located at 460 South Atlantic Avenue to allow an electronic changeable copy sign for the retail prices of gasoline, establishing conditions and expiration date of approval and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2024-61, read by title only.
Thank
Move
you.
approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Briley,
Yes.
Commissioner Tolland,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes, and again, D, E, and F are related, just different locations. 8F.
Resolution number 2024-62, a resolution authorizing the execution and issuance of a development order for a special exception regarding the 7-Eleven convenience store located at 1546 West Granada Boulevard to allow an electronic changeable copy sign for the retail prices of gasoline, establishing conditions and expiration date of approval and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2024-62, read by title only.
Thank you.
I move approval of resolution number 2024-62.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Briley,
Yes.
Commissioner Tolland,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. 8G.
Resolution number 2024-63, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Ormond Beach, Florida, authorizing the execution of a mural ownership agreement to allow a mural to be installed on the west-facing wall of the building located at 51 West Granada Boulevard between the City of Ormond Beach, Bill Jones, Highlander Corporation building owner, and Beth O'Connor, artist, and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2024-63, read by title only.
Thank you. I don't have any cards, but I will ask Planning Director Stephen Spraker to speak briefly on this item.
Good evening, Stephen Spraker, Planning Director. So this is a request for a mural within our downtown overlay district. This requires a mural agreement. Our land development code contains very specific criteria and standards. The property is at 51 West Granada Boulevard, right next to the grind. On the west wall, they are seeking to do this mural. It requires City Commission approval. It did get reviewed by the Ormond Beach Art District Board. who very excitedly recommended approval. This will be the second mural. The last one was done in 2019, so there's hopes that additional murals will occur in the downtown. The standards in the Land Development Code do contain requirements for maintenance and upkeep. There is a whole code enforcement provision in there. Both the business owner and the artist are here if there are any questions.
Thank you, Stephen. Any questions, Commission? Commissioner Sargent.
So this is the current design, right?
Correct.
What if they want to change? Do they have to come back
They
before
would have
us?
to come back to the City Commission
Okay.
and to the Art District Board.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Persis.
I just want to mention that when all these murals came about, we were all so excited to see art in our downtown, and I just want to commend the Ormond Beach Arts District Board for getting this here. I think it's beautiful. I think it looks great. I like all the stipulations that we have to keep it looking good. So I'm just very excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Tolland.
Yeah, I agree with you, Commissioner Persis, with the Arts District and all. It really will add some excitement downtown. You glossed over, and maybe I didn't hear, who does the upkeep on the mural?
The business owner.
The business owner's
right, and
responsible.
They contract with the artist to maintain it.
Okay.
If there are issues, there is a code enforcement process to either force, basically maintenance or to force it to be repainted.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Deputy Mayor.
I move approval.
Perfect.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I don't have any cards. Any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Tolland?
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent?
Yes.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Commissioner Briley?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes. And we will now start the public hearing on 8B. I've previously opened the public hearings, and before we begin, I'm going to ask our city attorney, thank you, Randy Hayes, to give us a little bit of a outline on this item.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to go over some preliminary matters with you. This will be, I think, the sixth public hearing you've had on the Tomoka Oaks item or Tomoka Reserve item in some fashion or another. So I'm not going to go through in great detail what you've already heard, but I'm going to give you a little refresher course. So the prior application was an application for developmental order under the existing planned residential development, PRD zoning. That application was heard by the planning board at meetings on July 13th, August 21st, and September 26th, and was heard by the City Commission on November 7th. And you will recall at those prior meetings that the applicant had indicated that they had a pending application to rezone the property from PRD to R2 if the City Commission did not grant its request to develop the property under PRD. At the conclusion or subsequent to the November 7th City Commission meeting, the applicant notified the city that it was withdrawing that application for development under PRD zoning, and that it intended to seek a rezoning from PRD to R2. The planning board heard that application at its meeting on January 11th. At the conclusion of that meeting, the planning board recommended to the commission that it deny the application to rezone the property from PRD to R2, and that is the matter that is before the commission this evening. Now, you have two options presented to you. If at the conclusion of the hearing you believe that the evidence supports the granting of the request to rezone the property from PRD to R2, then you would want to make a motion to approve the ordinance 2024-03, which is in your agenda packet, and that option would rezone the property effectively from PRD to R2. The other item that you have is a resolution with an order of denial that has been presented and has been formulated based on a recommendation of the planning staff and the planning board. If at the conclusion of the proceeding this evening, you believe that the evidence shows that the application for rezoning should be denied, then you would want to make a motion to approve option 2, which is approval of the resolution and the order of denial. Either one of those documents can be amended if you feel like it needs to be amended when you get to the point that you make that motion. Now, as far as the burden of proof goes, the applicant has the initial burden to show, to show why the application meets the requirements of the comp plan and the land development regulations and should be rezoned. If the applicant satisfies that burden, then the burden shifts to those in opposition to produce adequate evidence to show that the application should be denied. The City Commission gets to weigh and balance the evidence that it hears, and it takes many forms, including the reports from the prior meetings, the recommendations from the staff, and from professional experts that you may hear from this evening and who presented before the planning board. You all get to make the final decision based on the evidence. Now, your code allows anybody that believes that they have an affected interest to request to participate in a proceeding as a party intervener. And the Homeowners Association, Tomoka Oaks Homeowners Association, has made such a timely petition. And you will recall that in the prior matter of the PRD development application, that the applicant consented to allow the HOA to participate as a party intervener. They're not willing to do so this evening, and so one of the first preliminary procedural things that you'll need to go through is to consider the HOA's request for party intervener status, and then to discuss it, and then make a motion to either allow them or not to allow them to participate as a party intervener. In terms of the order of business, this is a quasi-judicial proceeding, and they're typically handled in the same manner, meeting after meeting. Those members of the public that wish to speak, anybody that wishes to address the commission should fill out a card, submit that to the city clerk if they haven't already done so. They need to do so. You may wish to have the witnesses sworn. It's not required, but it is certainly recommended and helpful. And the city clerk can swear in the witnesses en masse if that's the choice, or you can do it individually at your discretion. Following the swearing in of the witnesses, the next item should be considering the HOA's request for party intervener status. And then after they make their presentation to the commission, you may want to afford an opportunity to the applicant to address that request as well. At the conclusion of that, then you can discuss it amongst yourself and make an appropriate motion. Following that, then you will get into the meat of the presentation. And as in all matters, you would start with your planning director, let him present the staff's recommendation to the commission, followed by the applicant's presentation. You should afford them 20 minutes in accordance with your rules, followed by the HOA, party intervener presentation. You should afford them 20 minutes, followed by the residents or the non-party interveners. Each of those members will be allocated 3 minutes to speak. Following that, you can afford 10 additional minutes to the party intervener, the HOA, to address matters that came up during the presentations. And then you should allow the applicant an additional 10 minutes for rebuttal. Following all of that, you can get into your own questions and answers up here in your deliberations, and then you can make a motion second of either option that you want. It's an either-or option. It's either option A for approval, the ordinance, or option B for denial through the resolution. Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Randy, and I would like to have everyone who desires to testify sworn in. I've got 27 cards. If anybody still needs a card, please make sure you grab one, fill it out, and turn it back in. You can get that from the clerk, but let's go ahead and swear in those 27, as well as anybody from any of the parties, applicant, interveners, or otherwise, who are going to be testifying. And we'll just have you stand in place and have the clerk administer the oath.
Yes. Yes, please, all witnesses who will be speaking, please stand and raise your right hand.
Do we have, and Susan, I'm sorry, let me just check. Do we have any people in the overflow room?
Yeah,
They're
there's
all
some
here.
people raising their hand out here, yeah.
Okay. Bring them in just for a second. All right, thank you.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you.
you.
All right, and Commission, now it's our turn to consider Tomoka Oaks Homeowners Association's request for party intervener status. I understand in previous hearings this was not objected to. It is objected to for this hearing, and so my plan is to allow the homeowner's attorney to present testimony as to why they should be granted party intervener status, and then allow the applicant's attorney an opportunity to show why they should not be, and then we'll have a chance to discuss it and make a final decision. So the Homeowners Association attorney is Dennis Baer. You're recognized.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Commission. Dennis Baer on behalf of Tomoka Oaks Homeowners Association. As has been mentioned, during the prior rezoning process or the PRD approval process, the developers through Rob Merrill not only agreed that we would have intervener status, but they sought us out before they even filed the petition so we could start the dialogue, start the meetings. So your city code in section 2.210 provides for intervener status. A lot of local municipalities don't have that provision. For example, Daytona Beach does not have that. So really what you're saying is if you have a party that's affected, they can be interveners in this process. Legally, I think we've met the standard both under your code as well as under the applicable state laws that have been in effect from zoning challenges in prior decisions. First, we did timely apply back in December of 2023, and then in our application for intervener status, we included the resolution of the board of the Homeowners Association. More recently, we have filed the affidavit from John Power, who is the chairman of the association, outlining why we feel we have a basis for standing in this process as interveners. And Mr. Jim Rose is here tonight if you need live testimony. I don't think it's required. But if you look at the affidavit from Mr. Power, he references the fact that there's 178 homes in Tomoka Oaks subdivision that are contiguous with the golf course. And that's out of the 340 members within the association. This is not an association that was just established for purposes of fighting this development. The bylaws which are attached to Mr. Power's affidavit, which were established in 2015, indicates the purposes for the association are to beautify the community, to make the community a more enjoyable and attractive place to live, and this one's kind of interesting, to provide members liaison with Tomoka Oaks Country Club, which we all know is not there any longer, management, and with various governmental and other organizations. So clearly we're not some fly-by-night organization. Long-standing of involvement. The association was involved back in 2006 for the development review that occurred back then when there was a much lower density proposed with the recreational space remaining. So the case law in the state of Florida is pretty clear. Oh, and we are also in good standing with the state of Florida as an active not-for-profit corporation. So I think we, checked off all the boxes that need to be checked off. Clearly my clients will be affected as set forth in Mr. Power's affidavit. New homes are going to be constructed under the R2 proposal virtually on the backyard property lines of the existing property owners. It also establishes that increased traffic with volumes greatly exceeding the prior golf course usage poses a safety issue and will cause congestion. The loss of open space and buffering will negatively impact the natural resources of the neighborhood, and the HOA members who reside on the golf course had a reasonable expectation that the property that they invested in would be adjacent to open space in perpetuity. I suggest to you, if we don't have standing, then you shouldn't even have this provision in the code. I cannot think of a party that is going to be more affected by this proposed development. All the traffic's going to go through the existing roads and everything else. So I submit to you, we've met our burden, and hopefully you'll agree with us. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, the attorney for Tomoka Reserve will have an opportunity to present any evidence why the homeowners association should not be granted party intervener status.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Carl Sanders for the applicant, 1102 A1A North Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. Just to be very clear, we had absolutely, positively no objection for this body giving Mr. Bayer as much time as he needs to make a meaningful, to provide you with meaningful comments on his client's opposition to this application, and to have a fair opportunity to do so. No objection to that at all. Our objection is a simple legal one. I won't belabor the point. It's a jurisdictional argument for a court of law, not really for this proceeding. And we would respectfully submit, I agree, there's no live testimony needed. If Mr. Bayer wants to rely on the documentation that he referenced to establish legal standing, we would simply state that we respectfully disagree with his conclusion and believe that it does not establish the requisite legal standing that would be necessary to prove in a court of law. But in terms of them having time to be heard tonight, again, they can have as much time as they need. We want everyone to be heard.
Thank you. Thank you. Commission, now is our time to discuss, and I think with the comment of no objection, that probably makes it a lot quicker and easier. But at the end of the discussion, just need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
All right, and that's Deputy Mayor's to grant the HOA's request for party intervener status?
Correct.
And the seconder?
Correct.
Great. Please call the vote on that.
Commissioner Sargent?
Yes.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Commissioner Briley?
Yes.
Commissioner Tolland?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes, and we will start with the planning director's presentation on 8B.
Good evening, Stephen Spraker, Planning Director. So this is a zoning map amendment to go from planned residential development to R2, which is a low-density residential subdivision. The property is located at 20 Tomoka Oaks Boulevard. On the screen to the left is the land use for the property. The land use is low-density residential, and the existing zoning is planned residential development. So the history of the property in question, it was platted in 1961 as a golf course. The residential lots developed around the golf course, and it developed a symbiotic connection between the golf course, land, and the residential lots. In 2006, there was an application to change from the R2 single-family low density to the planned residential development order. And that development order issued approval for 119 multifamily lots, 3 single-family homes, and it preserved the golf course. In 2014, that 2006 approval expired. There was no construction, and the development order expired. In 2021, Triumphant Oaks of Ormond Beach 1 purchased the golf course, which the land area had closed. In 2023, there were a series of 3 planning board meetings and a city commission meeting. As referenced by City Attorney Hayes, the city commission remanded the application back to the planning board to review concerns including density, traffic, compatibility with surrounding neighborhoods, lot sizes, and natural preservation. In November of 2023, the applicant withdrew that issuance of development order application, and they sought the zoning map amendment, which is before you tonight. So what is a zoning map amendment? It is I like to say it's changing colors on a map. So there's no site plan, there's no buffers, there's no individual site development characteristics that you can review. What the changing colors on the map does is it does allow certain entitlements. It allows uses, whether that be single family or other uses within the R2 zoning district. If approved, that R2 would allow the development of 100 by 100 minimum lots. So 100 feet in depth, 100 feet in width. That approval process goes through the technical review of the site plan review committee, and it comes back to the city commission for a preliminary plat, which are construction drawings, and then it would come back again before the planning board and city commission as a final plat, the final subdivision. So that is if the R2 is approved. In the staff report, there is an analysis based on section 2-2 of the Land Development Code. There are 5 corresponding compatible zoning districts. The applicant is seeking the R2. Some of the reasons for that is the zoning district prior to 2006 was the R2 zoning district. The surrounding subdivision is zoned R2, the single family low density, and it's consistent with the low density residential. Within your packet, there's also letters from the project attorneys detailing the compatibility of the R2 zoning district. The planning staff's review of the application is throughout the process of the development order. There's been a recognition and acknowledgement that the Tomoka Reserve property is unique and unusual. The overall goal of this zoning map amendment is to assign the most appropriate zoning. Yes, you have 5 choices, but the goal is to recognize the unique and special characteristics of the golf course land. Staff believes that the existing planned residential development zoning district will provide a better overall subdivision design, standards for recreation, open space, and natural preservation. In the previous hearing, the commission acknowledged the planned residential development zoning was most appropriate for this unique one-of-a-kind property to mitigate negative impacts and to have a site plan with it. Development of the land area under the planned residential development, in staff's opinion, is better suited to accomplish the goals and objectives of the city's comprehensive plan and land development code. As referenced earlier, the planning board did review the zoning map amendment. It did recommend denial with a 7-0 vote. The applicant is also here to address the city commission.
Thank you, Stephen. And now we will ask the applicant to speak on this item, and they have 20 minutes. That'll be followed by the Homeowners Association attorney with 20 minutes, and then we'll move to cards.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
This looks like a lot of stuff, don't worry. Look at it. I should be very respectful of your time, and I appreciate the 20 minutes. I've got Mr. Corrett up here. Again, this is Carl Sanders for the record on behalf of the applicant. I'm going to be going through some of my preparatory comments, and I have one witness this evening, it's Mr. Corrett. He's going to speak to the applicable criteria and the zoning issues that Mr. Spraker just went briefly through for you as well. So, why are we here tonight? Why am I here tonight? I'm not here to make a sales pitch. This is not a rezoning application. There is no proposed development for you to consider. There is no rezoning for you to consider. What you have is a zoning map amendment, an application for a zoning map amendment, and I'm going to refer to it repeatedly as ZMA, just like your staff report refers to it, just like the proposed ordinance on your agenda refers to it. It's a ZMA. It's a zoning map amendment. That's a very important thing to remember. So what I want to do this evening is very briefly just state to you what the legal significance of that distinction, what it means for your decision tonight, and what it means for going forward. We are not here to talk about a PRD rezoning application. We're not here to talk about a proposed PRD development board. That ship has sailed. And despite the fact that there are multiple references in the staff report to that, and the opposition's testimony from their expert witnesses relate to that, we're not going to talk about the development order. We're only going to talk about what is before you tonight, which is our application for you to amend the zoning map. And so, and before I say that, I do have some additional documents. I'm not going to be using any of them. I just want them for the record. And Debbie has one there on the side, and I'm sure that Randy won't have any objection. We received about 2,500 pages of documents on your backup agenda, as I'm sure you're aware. This is just more paper, and I didn't want to hurt another tree. And it's simply, for the record, it is the actual hearing transcripts to supplement the minutes that are already in your report. And out of an abundance of caution, it also includes the written supporting materials that were submitted with the PRD application. Those documents may already be in your agenda. I don't know because we haven't been through all of them, but that's just, again, just as a cautionary point. So, what Mr. Spraker said is that the first thing he said is absolutely accurate. What is a zoning map amendment? He said he likes to refer to it as changing colors on a map. That's precisely what it is. It's not, has nothing to do with a proposed development. And it's because those colors allow different uses on the property. It's a pictorial representation of what the associated zoning districts are for the property. It tells you what you can do with your land. And so you have a color and you have a label. Our label is currently PRD. The label for the zoning district we are asking for is R2. R2 is the zoning district that this city determined was the most appropriate zoning district for this piece of property and every single piece of property that surrounds us. You made that decision, or the city commission made that decision a long, long time ago. That is not in dispute. The issue here is what happens when you lose your PRD development order. And it's a critical issue. And it was something that Mr. Spraker's earlier reports addressed in quite detail and accurately. And so compared with what is the current report that's before you, says that the purpose of this proceeding is to assign the quote-unquote most appropriate zoning district for the property. I could not disagree more. The purpose of this proceeding and your role is analogous to the purpose that your city staff repeated during the prior hearings when we were seeking a development order to attach to the PRD map label, the map color that we have. And as was repeatedly stated over and over again by your staff and us, that we have no zoning entitlements. We cannot use our property. It's the development order that identifies the uses that you can do with a PUD. It's the development order that defines the standards on which the development must proceed. And that's the fundamental difference between a PRD, which as you know is a negotiated zoning district. It's voluntary. It cannot be mandatory as a matter of law. And the reason for that is unlike your conventional zoning districts, R1, R2, R2.5, R2, R3, there are no published development standards to advise a property owner as to how they can use their land, how they can develop it, what's the minimum setbacks, what kind of uses are permitted. The PRD development order is what fills in that gap. And so when you lose that DO, you're in no man's land. You have nothing. And typically, as a matter of law, the way that many communities draft these PRD agreements is if the development order expires, and it is very common, that happens all the time. There's a deadline set for completing construction, development, and if it expires, you're done. And if it passes, then the DO expires. And in most cases, what happens as a matter of law, your prior zoning automatically reverts back to the property. You never are in no man's land because the law says you have to have some zoning designation, something with substance. And here we don't because we have a label on a map with a color that tells us nothing. And there are two ways to fix it. One option is to propose a new development order, to negotiate a new development order with a new site plan. We tried that, didn't work, the ownership decided that they would just proceed with the same zoning district and same rights that everyone else is entitled to, which is why we're here tonight. We're asking you to revert that map label back to what it has always been, R2. We're not asking you to propose a development plan. We don't have one yet. That doesn't come until later, as Mr. Spraker said. When you have a conventional zoning district, there's a whole different set of process for reviewing the applications. So the purpose of this application, again, is I'm going to read the city staff's exact words that were set forth in the prior application. Again, I've mentioned that they repeatedly stated we have no zoning entitlements, which is a true statement. That's the reason that we went for option 1 first for the new PRD development order. And I quote from city staff, "The purpose of the application, the PRD development order application that was withdrawn, is to provide a zoning designation through the issuance of a development order that details what is allowed on the property." The property does not have any allowed zoning uses. That's where we are. Staff recognizes that. Recognizes that we went forward with option 1. Didn't work. For us, the property owner gets to make that determination, not the city. Because a PRD is voluntary, not something that can be mandated. And so we are now proceeding with option 2. And the purpose of the application is the same. The purpose of this application is to provide a zoning designation, R2, through the issuance of a map amendment to change that label that details what is allowed on the property. And those details are set forth in your zoning code for R2, what types of uses are allowed and what the development standards are. So we are asking that you consider that this evening, or keep that in mind this evening when you're considering all the comments that are made. And I'm sure that most of the comments, certainly that we heard at the planning board, were analogous to, if not identical, to ones that we've all heard before. And we know they're opposed to development of the property, and we understand that. But we're not here to negotiate. That's not the purpose of this proceeding tonight. The only question for you to consider is, are you going to approve our request to change that label on the map so that we actually have development rights? And I would respectfully submit, under the very clearly established law, not only of the state of Florida, but of the United States, you have to assign something. You cannot leave someone in no man's land. You cannot tell someone, you have no rights to use your property. Well, you can do it, but there are consequences. And those consequences is a path that none of us here want to go down. And that's what's referred to as a takings lawsuit. I'm not here to talk about that. You're all familiar with that. Usually what we talk about in these proceedings, which is what I'm doing tonight, is what is this record? And if the vote comes out that we don't agree with, we have a record, we appeal it, and the appellate court can say, yeah, the city got it right or wrong. They say the city got it wrong, they send it back and say, yeah, you need to do it right. No harm, no foul. There's no monetary consequences with that, other than the time it takes for your legal counsel to go through those proceedings. With a takings claim, you've got a $40 million damages claim waiting out there. No one wants to do that, which is why I am imploring you to follow what the law requires and give these property owners the property rights that they're entitled to. With that being said, I know we're going quickly. I've got Mr. Marcus here. He's our professional planner, and I do want him to go through some of his comments on the zoning issue. The Spraker did, but not too much, and I'm going to try to go through that quickly. I'm seeing out of time. I wish I had 5 minutes more, but Mark, come on up. And I know that you all know Mr. Spraker. It's going to be a little unconventional because I have some specific questions to ask him, and the purpose of that is to kind of speed him through his report so that we can go forward. So, Mark, if you would introduce yourself and name the record.
My name is Mark Corrett. My professional address is 300 Interchange Boulevard, Ormond Beach. I'm the Director of Planning with Zev Cohen Associates.
Ms. Britt, I just handed the city clerk a copy of a memoranda that you prepared in connection with this application. This is the memoranda that you prepared, correct?
Correct.
Okay, let's go through it real quickly. The first part of your memoranda, you go through the criteria that Mr. Spraker went through earlier. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and according to your report, it appears that only 2 of the 8, 9, 10 criteria, 2 of the 9 criteria referenced by Mr. Spraker are applicable to your analysis, according to your report. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And one of the reasons set forth in your report for that conclusion is the wording of the criteria. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And every single criteria but one starts off with what 3 words?
Each of the criteria.
What 3 words does each criteria
The
start?
proposed development.
Is there a proposed development before this commission tonight?
No.
Okay. So, criteria 1 also basically asks, does the application zoning map conform to the standards and requirements of the Land Development Code? Your answer is yes in your report, correct?
Correct. That is what I stated. It conforms to the Land Development Code.
And why does a conventional zoning district, whether it's R2 or R3, conform with the Land Development Code?
Because those conventional zoning categories were created so that they conform to the Land Development Code.
So they are the Land Development Code?
Correct.
They're internally consistent?
That is
that
correct.
a difficult analysis?
No.
Number 2, the map amendment is consistent with the comp plan. Did Mr. Spraker's report find that the R2 zoning was inconsistent with the comp plan?
No, he indicated it was one of 5 zoning categories that are consistent with the comprehensive plan designation for this property, low
Right.
density residential.
And in Mr. Spraker's report, when he was going through the other conventional zoning districts, he had recommendations on those, correct? From staff's perspective? Yes.
Correct.
R1, staff said staff would not support R1, correct?
Correct.
Said staff would not support R25, correct?
Correct.
Staff would not support R3, correct?
Correct.
Did he say staff would not support R2?
No, he didn't say that.
Okay. But he did say staff would support PRD, right?
Yes, he did.
Is there a PRD application before this body tonight?
No.
In your report, you also discussed the distinction between PRD and conventional zoning districts. Is it possible to have a PRD zoning district, a zoning label, without a PRD DO? Is it possible for that PRD zoning label to be consistent with the comp plan?
No, because it's the development plan that would make it consistent. The label does not.
Thank you. You also, go through the staff report, again, on page 5 of your report, obviously, which has been handed out. And my apologies. I have a copy from Mr. Bayer. So if there's an extra one up there, if not, I've got one else. Thank you. Again, as we already discussed, and you heard Mr. Spraker said, he concluded that PRD was quote-unquote more appropriate, correct?
Correct. That's the statement in the staff report.
Okay.
So.
And so what was it about the report that you found problematic in your section on review of city staff report?
First of all, it never explained why the R2 zoning should be denied. It's a denial without any explanation in the staff report, other than the fact that Mr. Spraker's opinion was that the PRD was more appropriate.
Did he cite to any of the criteria that they didn't meet for that conclusion?
No.
Is there a section of the code that actually sets forth the criteria to be used for reviewing a zoning map amendment?
Yes, there is.
Is that section 2-03 of the city's land development code?
Yes, yes, it is.
And what is subsection A of that section entitled?
Map amendment.
Correct. And the map, the code says, it sets forth the procedure set for reviewing map amendments. And when a private property owner files an application for a map amendment, what does the property owner have to prove in order to be entitled to a map amendment?
What do they have to prove? They have to prove that the property, basically the way this works is let
me rephrase that. They have to establish that the application is consistent with the comp plan, correct?
Correct.
They have to establish that the application meets the procedural requirements of the zoning code, correct?
Correct.
Which basically align with criteria 1 and 2 of the 9 criteria used by staff, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Once that happens, and let me ask you this. The city staff report standing alone, does it establish consistency with the comp plan, that R2 is consistent with the comp plan?
It states that it is.
Once that happens, what is the obligation of the city in its review? Do they have to approve it, or do they have the option to deny it?
The burden of shift goes from the applicant to the city, but they can deny it if they can demonstrate that the maintenance of the existing zoning classification or respect to the property accomplishes a legitimate public purpose. That's reading directly from the code.
Right, and that's from the Snyder case law, as Mr. Baer is aware of, Mr. Hayes as well. And so the existing zoning classification is PRD, correct?
Correct.
And it's a label with no substance, correct?
Correct.
Is there any legitimate public purpose in maintaining a zoning label on a map that does not permit a private property owner to use his property?
There can't be a legitimate purpose for denying a person the ability to develop the property.
Thank you. Yeah, I do have, Mr. Mayor, can I have 60 more seconds?
Commission, do you want to give him as much time as he may consume, up to maybe 10 more minutes? Just so he's covered, and we'll do the same thing for the party intervener. 5, did I hear?
5, I heard 5.
All right, we'll grant you
Thank you.
an additional 5. Susan, if you can adjust the clock. Good deal. I think it's important to create the record, let you say everything you want to say. We're definitely going to let the party intervener say everything they want to say. We're definitely going to let the residents that want to testify say everything they want to say. So,
thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep.
In a court proceeding, what we have to say would take about 6 hours, so it's very difficult, and we're certainly cognizant of your time, and no one wants to be here that long.
Understood.
I'm just going to, again, to finish up, excuse me, or with respect to your report, you then conclude in your report, in fact, you cite to that section of the code, 2-03, and identify that is in fact the correct criteria for analyzing a zoning map amendment. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and in your staff report, you also indicate that you describe Mr. Spraker's report as unusual in the sense that it was different than other reports you've seen from him. Is that correct?
Yes, in the sense that it didn't interact directly with the actual application.
So the conclusion didn't cite the specific criteria that he was relying on. Is that correct?
Correct.
Supporting criteria. And in your report, you also include and attached a copy of reference to another ZMA application that was considered last year, 2023. Is that correct?
Correct.
In that ZMA application, the property owner had no development rights. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And in that zoning application, they sought a zoning map amendment to change their PRD, which had an expired development order, to a conventional zoning district. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And in that staff report, Mr. Spraker concluded that the only criteria that really were applicable were the first 2 criteria: consistency with the comp plan and compliance with the regulations. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And in that report, Mr. Spraker concluded that the application should be approved by the city commission because there is not a basis to deny it. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And in that application, this city commission in 2023 approved the application. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. Corrett, I'm going to show you a document now. I've got copies for everyone. I went through this very quickly. And this is an email. I want to ask, but had you seen this email before you prepared your report?
No.
What's the date on the email? Who's it from?
It is from Stephen Spraker to Randy Hayes. It is dated 12/20/23.
It sure is. Let me quote from it. Good morning, Randy. Staff is working on the Tomoka Reserve zoning map amendment. Staff report. We are having issues with the analysis of why R2 zoning is not an appropriate zoning for this property. R2 single family, supporting points. Before 06, it was R2. Everything around it, R2. The R2 is consistent with the comp plan. Planned residential development, standing today, this label, zoning has no entitlements with it. That's completely absent from the staff report, and that's important. Lastly, planned residential development. Researched other Florida cities and contacted other local planners. Cannot find another city that has assigned a planned development with no development order. There is a reason for that. Because it's illegal. You have to have documented property rights, period. And that's why we are asking you to approve the amendment application. Lastly, two last questions, and you have not seen these documents before. But this is also an email from Mr. Spraker attaching a copy of his staff report. Is that what it says?
Attached is a draft staff report. Let me know at a good time to discuss.
Okay. And that staff report is not the staff report that this city commission has before tonight, is it?
I'm just looking at it. It does not appear to be so.
I'm going to show you the attachment to the follow-up email, which is a red line draft of Mr. Spraker's initial draft report, his professional opinion, and what you have before you is a red line markup draft of changes, revisions, deletions, insertions that were prepared by the city attorney, Mr. Hayes. Do you see those strike through and additions?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from Dennis Baer, the party intervener attorney.
Mr. Mayor, with all due respect, I've not been given any of these exhibits that this can refer to. I would request an opportunity to cross-examine this witness. I believe I'm entitled to one of the rules of due process. First off, Mr. Carrick, we've worked together on issues before, correct?
Yes, we have.
You're the planner, City of Vanilla, part-time, and you worked back in the past.
We are continuing planning consultants for the city of Bunnell.
And there was a project we worked on where your initial staff report evolved and changed over time, correct? We went across from the fairgrounds? Different number of lots, different configurations, access issues, things change over time with the project, correct?
I don't believe I actually worked on that particular project.
You're not an attorney, are you?
No, I'm not.
So, but your staff report gives legal conclusions that are from the, looks like from the Snyder decision, correct? Denial of rezoning approval is not arbitrary, discriminatory, or reasonable in rendering a decision. That's not planning language, that's legalese, right?
This actually comes out of the land development code.
Okay. So this hearing has been postponed, what, 3 or 4 times?
This particular hearing?
Yeah, this one coming to the city commission.
This one has been.
So how long have you had this report?
The date on it, I started working on it on Saturday.
Okay, but it wasn't provided to us or anybody else till tonight again, right? Just like the planning board, all these reports came at the last minute, motions at the last minute.
I finished it a couple hours ago.
Yeah, you've had how many months to work on it?
I haven't had months to work on it.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Redirect.
Randy, I did not want to get into a direct and redirect situation here. They had 20 minutes. The intervener had 20 minutes. They took 25. Now the intervener has 25. I think that's where
Right,
we're
so
at.
let me try to reground everybody, right? So this is not a courtroom. It was kind of inferred earlier in the proceeding, right? This is a quasi-judicial proceeding before a local governing body board. Formal rules of evidence do not apply. There are rules that do apply. There needs to be a sense of fairness and reasonableness, and you've been presented with a lot of information to consider this evening that has not been presented before the meeting, which is consistent with what Mr. Sanders did before the planning board as well. I would just make a particular note of that.
Object to Mr. Hayes testifying.
Mr. Sanders, this is my time, sir. Mr. Mayor, I'm not testifying. I'm giving you guidance.
Thank you.
And Mr. Sanders can object all he wants.
And I will.
Excuse me,
record.
Mr. Sanders, it's my turn. Mr. Mayor, you do not necessarily need to allow redirect. You may if you believe that it's fair under the circumstances. You just need to be need to administer the proceeding with a sense of fairness and reasonableness to all of the participants. That includes the applicant as well as the HOA and other interested parties.
All right.
Thank you.
And so now is the HOA's 25 minutes?
I'm fine with reserving my time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Good evening. I apologize for the cross-examination. I just a little surprised to see last-minute submissions after what we dealt with at the planning board. When we were going through the last round of hearings on the PRD proposal, I mentioned that, okay, now they're going to come back with a nuclear option. Well, I think now tonight they're coming back not only with a nuclear option, but the threat of going to all-out nuclear war. But now they're going to sue you for a takings claim. I'm not going to be very long tonight. I think the case law is pretty clear. I haven't seen one legal precedent provided by Mr. Sanders that stands for the point that they have no entitlements. If you recall, we went throughout the entire last process. The developers were saying, we want your feedback. This is what we're proposing. We want your feedback. Well, the planning board gave their feedback on 3 occasions. You all gave the feedback, said take it back to the planning board because this is what we want to see. Well, they didn't want the feedback because obviously they didn't take it back to the planning board. They came back with a nuclear option. And now you're being threatened with litigation on a takings case. My recommendation is you have very competent counsel. Listen to your attorney. He will steer you in the right direction. But included within your package of information is what we call the Snyder decision. Florida Supreme Court has been a guiding star for land use cases since 1985 or 1986. It has 2 critical components to it that I think can help guide your decision tonight. First is that the local government, you as the elected officials, have the discretion to decide the maximum density provided for in the code, whether it will be allowed under a particular set of circumstances. The second aspect of Snyder that's really critical is that the city has authority to maintain the existing designation or zoning on the property where the decision accomplishes a legitimate public purpose and the decision is not arbitrary, discriminatory, or unreasonable. If you look, and it's kind of surprising because the application that they gave you tonight where this went right through and there were no issues, look at the map that's attached to it. It's vacant land, surrounded by vacant land in I-95. It's not the hole in the donut. You know, what you're dealing with here is a golf course that was constructed at the same time as all the 340-some residents in that neighborhood. And so those are really particular factual decisions that you can base your decision upon tonight. Mr. Horowski is going to come up in a couple of minutes and tell you in his expert opinion as a planner, there's other zoning categories that you can put on this property. And at no time when we went through the entire prior process did you or the planning board tell the developers you have no rights or entitlement on the property. It was, you need to irrigate the buffer so the plants will live. Lower densities that take into consideration the development patterns in the neighborhood. So there was never a denial. They could have had a development order if they had really wanted to listen to you. We wouldn't be here tonight. So the comments I'm going to leave you with last is to quote Mick Jagger, you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you get what you need. Because if you remember, the same firm, Mr. Merrill's firm that was representing developers in 2006, said that was an example of smart growth. Keeping the green space, lowering the density, that's what we'd like to see. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Tom Horowski. I'm a resident of Tomoka Oaks, although I don't live on the golf course. I am a professional planner. I have a master's degree in city and regional planning from Rutgers University. A member of the American Institute of Certified Planners, having qualified in 1983, and I've been a practicing planner in the state of Florida since 1973. And I think you have a full resume in the packet somewhere.
Tom, if you could speak directly into the microphone, some folks are having trouble hearing you in the back.
We're here to review a proposal for R2 single-family zoning that will set the parameters for proposed new homes. While we don't have a specific subdivision proposal to consider, I think it's reasonable, based on what we have heard so far going through this review process, that somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 homes is what we're likely to see as a result of that zoning. It is true that the existing Tomoka Oaks subdivision is zoned R2, but it's not automatic that rezoning to R2 is mandatory or even maybe the most appropriate action and choice. 60 years on from when the subdivision was developed, facts have changed and the neighborhood has changed. I prepared a written analysis that we provided for the packet about 2 weeks ago. We do support the staff report. We support the other report that our neighborhood has prepared by Max Forgey as a qualified planner. My report is dated March 22nd of this year. In that report, I noted a set of facts that I think are relevant to the case, and provided some analysis based on those facts for your consideration. I'm not going to go through the whole range of a whole list of factors. I'm just going to try and hit a couple of the highlights for you in the interest of being a little bit brief. The subject property has a long history as an open space and social hub for the Tomoka Oaks community. While the golf course has closed, the property really doesn't assume a mantle of vacant property with no relationship to the neighborhood surrounding it. The property was designed and intended as community open space and recreation and deserves to be included in the project analysis based on that status. We did a calculation of density for Tomoka Oaks. Considering residential uses, considering open space, the developed density of the neighborhood is about 1.25 units per acre. Well, just a quick comment on traffic. We've had a traffic study that's been done, although not updated for this project or for this application. But based on the use that was on that property prior, we can expect with the expected number of residential units about a 9-fold increase in traffic in the neighborhood. Whether or not the road network can handle that or not, we're still going to see a significant increase in associated safety concerns for pedestrians, for cyclists, and for automobiles in the neighborhood. We've talked a lot tonight about the zoning needing to be consistent with the comprehensive plan, and that is true. We know from the staff report and that R2 zoning is one of 5 zoning options that the city code identifies as consistent with the land use that's applied. The question is, which of these 5 options is most compatible with the neighborhood? Our state statute gives us a definition of compatibility. In the statute, it's defined as a condition in which land uses or conditions can coexist in relative proximity to each other in a stable fashion over time, such that no use or condition is unduly negatively impacted directly or indirectly by another use. That no use or condition is unduly negatively impacted directly or indirectly by another use. The fact that an adjacent use might be the same, similar in type, single family to single family, does not mean that they cannot be intrusive and that they cannot be incompatible. As we have discussed extensively at all of the hearings, there's a close relationship, an intrusive, essentially, relationship between the proposed project property and the neighborhood. Literally the only place that doesn't butt up to a house in Tomoka Oaks is the old driveway into the golf course. The core discussion that we had during the PRD hearings was about methods to minimize the intrusive impacts upon the existing neighborhood. And now the neighborhood is being asked to absorb a more significant impact. Because of the intrusive nature of the proposed development, the requirement for, for a compatible project demands that impacts from the new development follow a density and lot size compatible with the existing neighborhood. While the R2 zoning would seem to be an easy choice, the development of the subject parcel at R2 minimum standards, and we could certainly expect they'll be developed at minimum standards to get the anticipated unit yield, that suggests a level of incompatibility. The actual development at Tomoka Oaks has occurred well above the minimum R2 standards, as evidenced by the neighborhood density at 1.27 units per acre. The developed Tomoka Oaks is about 25% of the density allowed by the comprehensive plan, and about 50% of a project that would be in the 300 unit range. If we use density as a comparison between the new and old neighborhoods, as is reasonable to minimize the intrusive impacts, then the table of consistent zoning classifications suggests that R1 rather than R2 is the most compatible choice after planned residential development. The resultant project under R1 would yield a project density closer to the developed character of the neighborhood, and it would certainly lessen external impacts from traffic and from reduced public safety. The written report that I provided included a number of analysis of commentary that was provided with the application by the applicant. We found that a number of those responses are inaccurate, and some of it is irrelevant to the question that was asked them. Without going into detail, I just want to make it clear that from our analysis, we do have some objection to the data that was supplied on the application itself. In summary, the proposed development creates some negative intrusive impacts into Tomoka Oaks, both in terms of land use and public safety, that the requested R2 zoning does not effectively mitigate. We think that PRD is the best choice, but if standard zoning is to be applied, R1 provides the most consistent and most compatible option. Thank you.
Tom, before you sit down, I do have one question for you. How many local governments have you been involved with as a planner during your career?
Probably hundreds.
And
as a consultant and as staff.
How many as an actual staff planner, somebody working for the local government?
Not on a contract basis, it'd be 3.
So during your time where you worked as a municipal or local government attorney,
planner.
Or planner, excuse me. Sorry, I didn't mean to insult you. How many have you seen a staff report that evolves over time as a result of interaction between staff members?
Frequently.
So that's not an uncommon.
Not uncommon.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Dennis, anyone else?
We have no further witness.
All right. This time, we are prepared to move forward with the cards. I'm going to call 5 cards at a time. You're welcome to come sit up here, or at least be on standby knowing that you're in that number. Do you need? Okay. Anyone else need a break, Commission? Okay. All right. Carolyn Davis will be number 1. Jeff Boyle will be number 2. Marcia Rudman will be number 3. Barb Moore will be number 4. And Darla Widnall will be number 5. We'll call you in groups of 5. And first up will be Carolyn Davis. Carolyn, are you ready? No, she should be able to hear in there.
Carolyn Davis, 46 Oakmont Circle. I have taken the oath. City Policy 1.1.3 is the city's safeguard for ensuring Ormond Beach retains its character. But how is character measured? It cannot be weighed or assigned a mathematical formula. So actions and past behavior become the measure of character. 2 pivotal decisions by the Ormond Beach Board of Adjustment in 1961 and 1962 set the standard for Tomoka Oaks neighborhood character. In April 1961, the board unanimously approved the request of Tomoka Oaks, Inc. for permission to construct a golf course in the center of Tomoka Oaks. At that time, Section 3 of our city code, which was entitled Special Exceptions Permissible by Board of Adjustment, allowed the board to permit construction of a golf course in a property conventionally zoned R2A. Permission was given. The second pivotal vote occurred in November 1962, when the board unanimously provided Tomoka Oaks, Inc. permission for all houses adjoining the golf course to have a setback to within 15 feet of the rear lot line to take advantage of the adjoining golf course. The decision was made after hearing testimony by Tomoka Oaks, Inc. that the setback would prevent encroachment on another person's property, that the golf course would be there for 99 years, and that there would be no subdivision of the property conventionally zoned R2A. The only recorded city document I was provided, which modified that special exception, was the city's 2006 PRD rezoning approval, limiting residential development to the core of the Sam Snead Golf and Country Club property, while retaining the 18-hole golf course green space in perpetuity. I request that you deny the applicant's rezoning amendment for R2 and uphold the voting decisions of your predecessors, who recognized and protected open recreational green space land use of the Sam Snead Golf and Country Club property, regardless of zoning. Should your denial be appealed by the applicant, I request the city's legal representative not forfeit our green space perpetuity in any settlement or mediation, but instead make that perpetuity a condition of any allowed zoning uses, thus continuing and protecting the character of Tomoka Oaks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff Boyle, 614 North Halifax Drive. In your hearing last November, the Commission said that Tomoka Oaks zoning should remain a PRD to address density, traffic, and other issues. The applicants have ignored your recommendation. They now ask you to rezone this property to R2 to enable more units, more density, and more traffic, and to eliminate all further public hearings on these questions. How much density is too much? Will the additional traffic compromise safety? Will adjacent property rights be protected? The proposal threatens the quality of life for nearly 2,000 homes and ignores a comprehensive land use plan that says preserve neighborhood character and do no harm. In 2006, the City Commission put development limits on this property when 3 mayors, past and present, approved a maximum of 122 units, conditional on preserving the golf course open space in perpetuity. Mayor Costello questioned traffic. Commissioner Kelly questioned homeowner sightlines. Commissioner Partington questioned neighborhood impacts. The 2006 development order won unanimous approval from the City Commission, the residents, and applicant attorney Rob Merrill. It set absolute limits on future development of the golf course. All parties, including Rob Merrill, signed off on those limits, and the facts are all there in the City Commission minutes of October 3rd, 2006. Anybody can go read it. Though the PRD expired in 2014, the land use limits and the intent of the City Commission development order have not expired. Since 2014, federal court decisions have protected golf course green space from residential conversions, even after golf courses have been closed. The 2006 City Commission and federal courts set legal precedent. You are on safe legal ground to uphold that precedent by denying this rezoning. Mr. Mayor, Commission, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I'm Marcia Rudman, 1 Tomoka Oaks Boulevard, Unit 116 in Escondido. I've been a resident of Ormond Beach for 33 years, Escondido 21 years, and I just feel that the applicant's plan is not the right fit. It will change the character of the neighborhood, change the character of the city. I know you've already heard all the pros and cons, and so I just can't emphasize enough how important it is for us to try to maintain the character of the neighborhood and the city. Thank you.
Darla Widnall, 7 Shawnee Trail. Thank you to our city staff, Stephen Spraker, the planning board, our commissioners and Mayor Partington, for your dedication to objectively studying the facts in this proposal. I would like to read the first sentence of our city's mission statement. To ensure Ormond Beach is one of the most attractive, stimulating, and innovative communities in Florida, while protecting our rich history and maintaining our unique charm. I was reading our 2022 Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which cost the city $125,000. 1,100 participants were surveyed. A golf course was mentioned in 6 of the surveys in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. These are the following pages on which a golf course was mentioned. Page 132, page 149, page 155, 186, 191, and page 231. The participants of the survey voiced that they wanted another golf course in our community. The survey also mentions 4 different avenues for the city to take in order to fund this golf course, if we were to have a willing seller. Also, I just found out that the Tomoka Oaks Boulevard, the one and only 450-foot road leading out of Tomoka Oaks, is a protected scenic canopied road. It is one of 9 roads protected by the city of Ormond Beach. Not only would this proposed development bring to an end the unique charm of 5 communities, but we would have to reconfigure Tomoka Oaks Boulevard to accommodate 3,000 daily trips in and out of the middle of Tomoka Oaks development. Please help us to protect our rich history and unique charm as stated in our mission statement. To quote Barbara Dolliner, the shoe just doesn't fit.
All right. Barb Moore, and Barb, you're going to be followed by, I think it's Ellen Cook, David Coley, Haley Osborne, Connie Colby, and Barbara Bonarigo.
Good evening, Mayor Partington and City Commissioners. My name is Barb Moore, and I live on Tomoka Oaks Golf Course. I'm grateful for the great community of Ormond Beach, in which we live, love, work, and play. We will pray God's blessing on the remaining of tonight's meeting. I have always enjoyed seeing the golfers out in our backyard, having fun on the greens of Tomoka Oaks, missing putts and letting loose. Their recreational time out has certainly been missed by us who live on the golf course. Tonight is a special meeting, however, for we will see where you, our elected officials, really stand on the development of Tomoka Oaks Golf Course, which was always intended to be a golf course from its inception. For tonight, we will see how our officials, through your vote, who you're working for, the developers or the people who have elected you to protect our backs and interests. Of course, we are hoping for the latter. Yet, so many times over the last several years, we have seen our nation's government talk good story. Then when it comes down to the vote that really matters, they cave, abandoning the desires of the community in which they serve. We recently saw this at a Volusia County Council meeting with the flip-flop of the votes at the second reading of the Fuel Farm moratorium, despite public outcry. We are hoping with this Tomoka Oaks community that you vote against the latest developer R2 proposal and do the right thing for the Ormond Beach residents. From the Bible in Job 8, we hear, God is always fair. God, all-powerful, does the right thing. Our God is a God of doing the right thing, and he holds dear the things that we do, and he expects us no less from us. So let the community that God holds dear for our integrity, heart, and doing what is just. Let there be no caving tonight. Stay strong. Thank you, and God bless.
Ms. Cook, followed by David Coley.
I'm Ellen Cook. I live in Escondido, 1 Tomoka Oaks Boulevard. In 1966, we bought a house on North Beach Street on a 100 by 200 foot lot. We lived there for 38 years because it was a settled community. As life changes, we had to make changes, and I'm the only one that was left to find a new home. I looked around and I found Escondido because it was another settled community. Now, I lived there for 18 years. I enjoyed my being there, the neighborhood, the people. But with this development that is going to be, may or may not, I hope, be approved, in Escondido, I won't find my way in or out because of the traffic. It's a shame, but that's, I won't be the only one. The golf course was a beautiful addition to the neighborhood. So was the tennis court. So were all the other amendments. But I hope that you won't approve this. I know people have rights, but we do too, and I don't know how we're going to get in and out of our homes because it's going to be a terrible time with the traffic that are going to be there. I hope you will change your mind. Thank you.
David Coley, followed by Haley Osborne.
My name is David Coley, and I'm not going to make friends here tonight. I can tell you that right now. Number one, I stand in favor of the zoning amendment. And number two, I'm not a resident of the city of Ormond, so that kind of probably puts me in the bad spot. I want to rephrase and add something to the thought. Number one, we've probably all heard a lot of that the only constant in our lives is change. I feel for the people out there, but life is coming along and changing as we go. But I want to refrain from a different thought. The residents in the area had a golf course and it was quiet and life was good. The golf course closed down, but other things didn't change and life was still good. The golf course went up for sale, and here's where a mistake was made. The homeowners association, the individual residents, and the residences group had the opportunity to attempt to purchase the property. To my knowledge, you did not have the opportunity.
Sir, if you would, just address your comments to me.
Everybody had the opportunity when it came up for sale. They did not purchase the property. The people that want to rezone the area and want to work in the area did. The people that live there had a plan and a vision in their mind for what it should be like. The people who bought the property didn't. The people who bought the property are asking things to change. The people who live there don't want change. I don't envy you the position you're in because you're caught between a rock and a hard place. You've got the residents on one side, and you've got the new owners and what they potentially have for lawsuits and whatever else on the other. I wish you the best of luck on this. I don't see a winning side to it. And like I say, it's got to be tough to be in your spot. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Haley Osborne, followed by Connie Colby.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Haley Osborne, Rio Pinar Drive. I love my street. I love my backyard. When we moved in, one of my favorite things still is to go outside, have my coffee or my wine or whatever, sit out, watch the empty golf course. Especially this season, the birds are beautiful. There are painted buntings and blue grosbeaks, tons of cardinals, lots of hawk activity. It's very exciting and wild back there. We have deer, coyotes, sometimes bear, gopher tortoises, which are a Florida keystone species and cannot be removed, as you all know. Keystone species means that their burrows serve other animals as well. Protection from things like forest fires and hurricanes. Lots of species use gopher tortoise burrows, including the endangered indigo snake. But if we have the R2 zoning happen, it means that our wildlife and our environment, our natural environment, is in jeopardy, right? But more than just that, I would like to respectfully request that you deny the R2 amendment for a number of reasons. One, there will be an unjust depreciation in current homeowners' house values. Okay, anyone who says otherwise does not know the market. People do want yards. They don't want overcrowded neighborhoods. And people who first purchased their homes within Tomoka Oaks did so mostly because of the pleasant atmosphere, the natural atmosphere, the uniqueness of the landscape, the golf course, which if we need to revert to a previous zoning, it should be to the green space, which was the initial plan and why many people chose to settle in Tomoka Oaks and purchase there. There's going to be, as you know, a dangerous rise in traffic, decreased walkability and accessibility. Many of us walk our dogs. We, push our strollers. We run. We cycle. It's already kind of full, and that's because we have no sidewalks. So if you add 300 plus other homes, it's just going to get harder and harder. There's also a chance of increased flooding with more development. We've seen this happen in many places in Florida, which will result in increased insurance prices, raising of property taxes, and there will be limited housing diversity. So those are my reasons. Thank you.
Connie Colby, followed by Barbara Bonarigo.
Good evening, Connie Colby, 108 Roble Lane in Ormond Beach. I do not live in that particular area, but I do frequent Nova Road, and it is already a death trap. As you know, this issue has been before both the planning board and you guys multiple times, and it's time for someone to finally say no and stop this coming back and forth for these people who live there. As the lady just talked about the value of the homes that are on the golf course there, they had this company that has the that wants to build there had a real estate person come to, I believe, the planning board one evening, who actually said that people don't lose any value if their house is on a golf course. It doesn't make any difference one way or the other, that it's the same price. I would prefer to not have somebody in my backyard. I'd rather have a golf course or a lake behind my house. As far as them not understanding why there's been some denials, possibly it was because with the PRD, you have a lot of choices that the city can make, some determinations as to how they want things laid out, a lot better than a strict R anything. Anything else here? I heard them say tonight they have no plan, and to me, when they come before us with no plan, we've had no trust in the past, and I would just deny based on you can't trust with no plan. So I would suggest saying no tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara Bonarigo, she'll be followed by Mary Pat Whiteside, Kristen Deaton, Robert Banker, Debbie Brown, and John Measle. Barbara.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The golf course at Tomoka Oaks has been a central part of our community for nearly 60 years. During this time, it has been consistently used and enjoyed by residents of the subdivision and the wider public as a cherished recreational space. This extended period of exclusive use underscores its importance and value to our neighborhood. For generations, the golf course has not just been a place to play, it has been a hub for social gatherings, a backdrop for shared experiences, and a key element of our community's identity. Its presence has contributed to the unique lifestyle and sense of belonging that define Tomoka Oaks. As we contemplate the future of the golf course, it's crucial to acknowledge its deep-rooted role in our lives. Any decisions made should consider the strong attachment and impact this space has had on our community over the years. Let's ensure that whatever comes next honors the history and the spirit to our neighborhood. Thank you so much for your time, and good evening.
Thank you. Mary Pat Whiteside.
Good evening. My name is Mary Pat Whiteside. My husband and I have lived at 29 North St. Andrews Drive since 1991. We chose Tomoka Oaks very deliberately because it was a quiet, established neighborhood of custom homes, and we planned to be in our forever home for the rest of our lives and enjoy living in the heart of Ormond Beach. I'm a realist. I know that something is going to be built on our former golf course. But my question is, what type of community will become the foot that may or may not fit our shoe? Both the Planning Board and the City Commission clearly indicated in previous meetings that the original plan was for too many homes. How did the developers respond? They responded like bullies. Bullies always respond by launching a new attack. Their nuclear option was to ask for twice as many homes. I don't like being threatened. We are not Margaritaville. We don't want to be Plantation Oaks. I'm horrified that sometime in my future, when I drive into my beautiful neighborhood, I'm going to look up and see a cluster of new homes that resemble the cottages on Williamson Drive. I dread the traffic 800 more cars are going to add to my neighborhood. Will this new traffic require cutting trees and getting rid of the green space in our neighborhood? How safe will I be on my daily walks around the Tomoka Oaks Loop? I can imagine how years of construction will create dust, debris, and noise that will change the quality of my life and perhaps lower the value of my home. Will Nova Road come to a standstill regularly every day the way State Road 40 does right now? I ask that you deny the zoning changes requested. I further ask that you continue to require the coming homes fit the flavor and character of our beautiful neighborhood. To the developers, I ask that you build homes that fit in our neighborhood. They will attract the buyers that are out there looking for extraordinary homes in the heart of Ormond Beach. Tomoka Oaks is a beautiful size 9 glass slipper. Please don't force a size 12 foot in it. Thank you.
Kristen Deaton, followed by Robert Banker.
Kristen Deaton, 80 Shadow Creek Way, lifelong Ormond Beach resident. Tonight, I am here in support of our Tomoka Oaks residents in their quest to keep their neighborhood from being developed the wrong way. Just as I have been at numerous other city meetings on this issue, I stand with the residents, and I am looking forward to the commission rejecting the developer's latest attempt to forever change the character of the golf course property with too many homes. Please do not destroy the integrity of this neighborhood. Thank you.
Robert, and then Debbie Brown will be after you.
Robert Banker, 1 Tomoka Oaks Boulevard, Unit 135. I thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight. You, the committee, are going to or already have heard many voices sharing many ideas involved with this plan development. You will hear many reasons as to why not to support this development, reasons such as overcrowding, safety, stress on the infrastructure, traffic congestion, home devaluations, aesthetics of the included areas, intended use of the land by previous town fathers from many years ago, harmonizing with adjacent lands and whatnot, land to be used in perpetuity, the golf course, and many other objections. But the one thing you will not hear, we need this. We need this development. We need to stress the infrastructure. We need to devalue not only the properties located adjacent to the golf course, but properties all over Ormond Beach. And believe me when I say properties all over Ormond Beach. Why? Because if they can build here, they can and will build elsewhere, wherever they please. Personally, I was quite disheartened to hear at the conclusion of a previous planning meeting when the president of the planning committee stated, something is going to go in there. I don't know what, but something is going to go in there. My question is why? Why can't it stay a golf course? Is this preordained, or do we have no voice? Do we have no say? When my wife and I bought into the Escondido, one of the first voices we heard was, well, we are very fortunate to live here because no one can build behind us. Why? Because the golf course, the railroad, the river, and the whatnot. And I might add that many, if not all of the homeowners located next to the golf course felt exactly the same way. They purchased with no expectation of somebody coming along and building homes 20, 30, 40 feet behind them, ruining a perfectly good view out the back picture window. They had no expectation their homes would be devalued rather than increase in value. You know, we look back over our lives at the idea of safety, and unfortunately, oftentimes, we are a day late and a dollar short. Almost invariably, someone has to get hurt or die before we become safety conscious. There are currently many walkers and many bike riders throughout this area, and far too often they walk and ride in great peril. How does this planned development make these activities any safer? One entrance, one exit. Or was this a good idea? Who builds a house with only one entrance and an extra door? Overcrowding, look at the design, looks like a sardine can. How does this planned development harmonize with existing homes? Once again, many, many voices being heard against. There is not one voice in here saying, great idea, let's do this. Just a reminder, the planning board voted 7-0 against.
Thank you. Debbie Brown, followed by John Measle.
Hello, my name is Debbie Brown, and I live at 90 North St. Andrews Drive, Ormond Beach, Florida, in Tomoka Oaks. I lived in Daytona Beach prior to living in Ormond and stayed out of Ormond Beach politics, so I don't understand why people from Jacksonville, Miami are involved. I'm here to encourage the City Commission to go with the Planning Board recommendations to turn down the R2 zoning request of Tomoka Reserve. Tomoka Oaks was always meant to be a golf course community. 75% of the streets are named after golf courses from around the world. I'm sure if the City Commission thought 272 homes was too much, 317 new homes inside an already established development is improper. The owners of Tomoka Oaks have indicated several times a willingness to purchase the property only to be ignored or ridiculed. Yes, the owners have had several meetings with Tomoka Oaks only to be controlled by the Tomoka Reserve attorney or staff. I don't believe this was the purpose. From the beginning, Tomoka Reserve owners were requested to try not to overdevelop the land and were requested to have 100-foot lots adjacent to 100-foot lots. Now I speak to Tomoka Reserve people. Remember you purchased golf course land without a zoning designation, not vacant land to be developed for profit.
Thank you. John Measle, followed by Ashley Dufresne.
Good evening. I'm John Measle, 16 Eagle Court. The golf course should have never been allowed a zoning of R2 due to density. Even Mr. Merrill stated that the developer team didn't think 300 plus units would ever be a good fit on this property. One of the biggest problems with R2 zoning is the majority of houses built around the golf course, like my own, were built to utilize the golf course as their backyard. Some houses have the pool and enclosure built right up on the property lines due to the way they were allowed to be built at the time. There's no way building homes this close to existing homes will not hurt their property values. This property was previously set for a PRD for a reason. The streets around Tomoka Oaks were set up for the amount of housing in the area, counting all the green space of the golf course. At 300 plus homes, with an average of 3 cars per home, we're looking at just asking for problems on St. Andrews, North, South, Reno, Pinar, Main Trail, including the Meisner Bridge, because everyone is not going to go out Nova Road to get to Granada. Even now, with all the traffic, just from the residents and construction vehicles and landscaping vehicles, I guarantee you there are near misses every day of people walking and riding bicycles through that neighborhood. I understand the developer needs to build more than 106 units to be profitable. We need to be able to make some kind of compromise here. I understand something's going to go there. The previous planning board even recommended 187 units for R1 zoning. I prefer golf course. If something needs to go out there, we need to go to R1 zoning just for a proper fit. And no matter what's in there, we need an adequate buffer, not houses built right up on top of houses that were built to have the golf course as a backyard. Thank you.
Ashley, then Susan Heyer, Charlie Heyer, Paul Hughes, and Arthur Armstrong.
Ashley Dufresne, 118 North St. Andrews. For decades, residents have enjoyed the tranquility and green space provided by this golf course. It's been a haven for families, a source of peace, and a buffer between our homes. Now the developer proposes a rezoning so they can cram too many houses into this space, threatening the very essence of what makes our neighborhood special. This proposed zoning not only goes against the spirit of our community, but it also raises serious concerns regarding Ormond Beach's Land Development Code, specifically Section 115 of Article 2. This section, as you commissioners well know, outlines the responsibility of developments to not substantially or permanently create a nuisance. Imagine the traffic, congestion, the noise pollution, the strain on already stressed resources. This development in its current form is a recipe for disruption. Deprive adjoining properties of adequate light and air. Densely packed houses mean less sunlight reaching existing homes, creating a cramped and unpleasant living environment. Create excessive noise, odor, glare, or visual impacts. The tranquility of our neighborhood will be shattered. The proposed rezoning would drastically alter the visual landscape, replacing the calming green space with a wall of homes. Commissioners, you took an oath to uphold this code. Approving this rezoning would be a blatant disregard for the well-being of our community and a violation of the very code you are sworn to protect. I urge you to find a solution that respects the existing neighborhood and adheres to the Land Development Code. A development that integrates green spaces, prioritizes sensible density, and ensures the well-being of existing residents. Let us not sacrifice the character and comfort of our community for short-term gains. Let's build a future that benefits everyone, not just developers. Thank you.
Susan Heyer, followed by Charlie Heyer.
You got that right, Heyer. You may remember me as Harper. My parents in 1964, Paul and Donna Harper, bought a model home on a golf course property. They were very proud of that. For the next 60 years, I was born and raised there, although I'm only 19, and that was their pride and joy. The last 5 years my mom was alive, she was bedbound, and the golf course gave her her highlight of her day, aside from her grandson. And of course, we kids loved it when the golfers would go home at the end of the day. Out came the Frisbees and the dogs and everything else. I know something's going to happen back there. Everybody's been talking about it one way or another. I just hope that, we hear these lovely things about the murals and the non-neon blinking signs and the parks and recreation. I hope whatever happens there maintains and preserves the character of Tomoka Oaks and the Ormond Beach that we all have grown up loving. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Susan. And Susan, was it the flute? Yes. Thank you. Yes. 37 years. It's nice to see you. We can have a band reunion here in a little bit if you want, Renita. All right, Mr. Heyer.
Yes, Charlie Heyer, 50 Pine Valley Circle. Wow, I am humbled. There have been a lot of good people speaking here in front of me. There are several things I had prepared notes, and there are a few things to consider as far as what this has been requested. Somebody mentioned that they came here, they're asking you to rezone, but they're not going to tell you what they want to do with it. I thought that was a very interesting point and a very good point. Hey, give me carte blanche. I promise you'll like what I write on it. Second of all, I grew up, my father, unfortunately, I was not born down here. I'm a damn Yankee. My dad worked for ODOT. He was a engineer, project engineer, was in charge of building I-71 from Cincinnati all the way up to Kings Island, if you know anything about the area. It's about 50 miles, halfway to Columbus. I grew up, I was a reader. Dad had the traffic manual in his car when I would go places and wait on him to do stuff. I would sit in the car and I would read the traffic manual. I could probably tell you more about traffic requirements, traffic layout and design for, 1975 than most people down here. Somebody mentioned it, people that come out of that development, whatever development, if a development goes in there, are not going to sit there patiently stacked up halfway through the development waiting for whatever signal goes in at Nova Road. They will sit there. In the meantime, what happens to the people that already live there that have to also get out of the neighborhood that normally use Oaks Drive? They're going to sit there and wait while the traffic goes around the diamond. We heard earlier that Tomoka Oaks Drive is a protected street. So you could maybe put in a baby roundabout, but if you think about how a roundabout works, the people that are coming from North St. Andrews, they're never going to get out because South St. Andrews comes in and then the new development comes in. Those people are going to sit there until it empties out. And the other thing I ask you to consider is we've heard about 3,000 trips a day. Problem is those 3,000 trips are not spread out across 24 hours. I would reckon that half of them happen between 7:30 and 9 o'clock in the morning and probably even more. In addition to the school buses that already come around that loop, it's really not designed for great big things like that. How many more buses are going to have to go back into a new neighborhood that's full of houses full of kids? I would ask, first of all, that you deny this. Second of all, I would ask that you go back to the developers, some of whom have looked at me and told me how much they love the neighborhood and would never do anything to disarm it.
Thank you. Paul Hughes.
Give them your own nuclear option.
Followed by Arthur Armstrong.
First off, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. It's not my favorite thing to do is public speaking anymore. I was never good at it. But I want to start off with something that's really basic. First off, I heard of a threat of money on a pure takings case. I lived through one. I had one. I fought it. It took almost 10 years, and a federal judge sided with me. It's an expensive and nasty thing, but when I offered to buy the golf course to put a single-family home on it, and that was approved, that negates a pure takings case because it does have a purpose. One person can own a golf course and live on it. John Frolick did it for years on the northern side of Long Island. So I know that is possible. You bought a golf course, and now you simply want to make money. I don't have a fault with that, but it is what it is. We want green space, and we're honoring that. Many people have had open and notorious use of this land for 60 some odd years. They expect what they've had for eons. When you buy a property, you're hoping to change it or change the zoning of the characteristics of it. There's a risk in that. That's what an investor does. He takes risk for reward. This is nothing but money. And the whole issue, like love, once the love is gone, the rest is balancing the checkbook. So hope is not a good replacement for the overcrowding situation that's going to come about. Problem is, with the many hundreds of thousands of homeowners that are affected, they bought into a quiet, established community on a 2-lane road in Nova Road before traffic started showing up. Then we have About 20 years ago, I believe they widened it for 6 lanes for an evacuation route. I'm still waiting to hear DOT come down and speak, because we have a big factor with that. We have a set river that's not going to get bridges on the back side of it. We have some bird dogging of homes on the back of this alleged community scheme for ingress and egress. But on the front, there's only one entrance in and out. And you cannot take 50 pounds and put it into a 5-pound sack. Now, there may be allowed 4, 5, maybe a house per 5 acres. It doesn't reach the model of what will make profit. But that's not my problem. That's their problem for taking the risk.
Thank you.
Now,
Arthur
no,
Armstrong.
I'd like.
Nope,
Sir,
3
you
minutes,
said,
sir. Sorry.
No, you said before when they went
Arthur
over.
Armstrong. is
You
up
said
next.
before I would
Please,
have
you
5
made your
extra
points.
minutes.
We made your points. We get it. Thank you. There's no 5 minutes. It's 3 minutes for everybody. That's the fair way to do it.
Well,
Arthur Armstrong, and you did a great job. Thank you. Thank you. Arthur Armstrong.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for this time. I do not live over there, but I played golf there in the past, and I had friends that lived on the greens. I live over in Ormond Lakes. Ormond Lakes, I'll just give you a real quick scenario. It used to be dead end. You go in there, you only had one way in. It was great. They opened it up eventually because they finished the subdivision. Now it's like a highway. When you go down that beautiful road, it's 45, 50 miles an hour. But what we have over there, if they are allowed to develop that property and what they want with an R2, you won't, as has been said by eloquent people in the past here in a minute, has said that you won't be able to move around that area. And that's true. It's very, very true. And this gentleman over there, the attorney, said he's threatened with the $4 million. I was threatened with $3.5 million up north, and I fought it and I won it in federal court. So don't let him bother you. You need to do what's right for this community. And one of the main things, and I'm not going to take up my 5 minutes because I don't live there, because I want people that live there to talk, is you've got to say no. And if they can't put a subdivision in, they should have thought about that to make profit. That's not my problem. It's not your problem. Buyer beware. If they can't develop that property the way it should be, too bad. Let them sell it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Commission, we have 6 more cards to go, and we're going to take a restroom break. We'll start back at 8:30. Thank you all. We've got about 6 more cards to go, so we will call the meeting back to order. I'm going to go ahead and call out the last 6 names so everybody can be ready. It'll be Bonnie Klopfer, Denise White, Missy Herrero, Michelle Zirkelbach, Randy Hendricks, and Frank Molnar. So we are back in session. Everyone has resumed their seats as best they can, and we'll start with Bonnie Klopfer.
Bonnie Klopfer, 23 Tomoka Oaks Boulevard. Here we are again. Why? Because common sense and care for your fellow man is gone. But greed, yes, the almighty buck rears its ugly head and takes over. We've discussed over and over again the absurdity of jamming all those homes in here. The traffic, the schools, the teachers, the doctors, nurses, dentists, firemen. Hell, I have to wait 7 months to get my teeth cleaned. That's the kind of backup we have here. Again, do these developers care? No, not one bit. Now they're coming at us with big guns, and they're going to fix us little people now. More homes, more crowding, more everything that we don't need, but nothing we do need. It's not being fixed, and they're not willing to do it. It's not a good idea, and with every vote that we've already had, everyone agreed it wasn't a good idea. Capitalism is great, but what makes it okay to disregard all of us just trying to live a nice, safe, peaceful life? Are you willing to give us all written guarantees that our properties won't flood after you build? Your selfishness is horrendous, and your disregard is contemptible for other people. I don't know how you sleep at night. Thank you.
Thank you. Denise White, followed by Missy Herrera.
Denise White, 9 Fox Run Trail, and I did take the oath, and I wanted to thank you for your service and your time. Obviously, we all hope to see significant reduction in homes based on the planning board and the city commission, your recommendations. But here we are, back again, looking at potentially more homes and less oversight. I think that's the big concern, is what would be proposed, what would they be going after, since none of the previous recommendations have been followed. My concerns have always been the same. I've gotten up and spoke at every hearing, and safety, that's my big concern. I don't live in Tomoka Oaks, I live in the trails, but I walk the trails and I walk Tomoka Oaks multiple times a week. And I've been close to being hit numerous times, and that's just with the traffic that we have. We know from the previous traffic study that approximately 33% of the Tomoka Oaks residents don't currently cut through the trails. Well, we know if a development goes in there with this many homes, we know they're going to be cutting through the trails. So that's going to make our little 2-lane, windy roads without sidewalks and with the medians even more dangerous. Then we've got the kids trying to get to the bus stops. We've got other walkers, runners, people with their dogs, and as we keep hearing, we've got the landscape, all the construction vehicles. It's just absurd. Then we throw in the same old 450-foot entry with all these vehicles, and as we've heard, it's not going to work. And let's see. One would ask, since we're back here, what's changed? Well, it hasn't changed. We still have all these issues. We don't have the sidewalks in Tomoka Oaks. I talked about the trails. So all I can say is please don't put our lives at risk and so negatively impact our lives. And thank you again for your time.
Thanks. Missy Herrero, followed by Michelle Zirkelbach.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for being here, and yes, thank you for your service. I can't imagine how this is for you guys week after week. I think about it often because I really admire people who run for political office, and I always think that I would like to do it, and then I see what you guys go through, and so thank you. Thank you for that. That's not why I stood up to talk, and I too have spoken at all of the meetings and shared some personal stories and just concerns. You know, an overwhelming theme from this whole plan has been that this isn't just a piece of property out west of 95, right? That it is a piece of property surrounded by well-established, mature neighborhood. And that's why over and over again, PRD has been used and spoken about, because that's the only way you can really address the unique nature of this piece of property. The place, obviously, everyone's talked about it. It's been an open recreational space that's been enjoyed by Ormond Beach residents for decades. It's not as simple as changing colors on a map. To say that is just careless and it's irresponsible. The previous zoning of R2, I'm not sure when it was established, but I assume it's been decades old. For those of us who live and work here, we know that our growth is not keeping up, our infrastructure is not keeping up with our growth. As I mentioned in the past meetings, I've shared my personal experience of a family member needing medical care, of long waits in the ED, shortage of hospice services, and we've heard about people waiting months to get into doctor's appointments with specialists. I know since my stories, you all have a friend and someone you know who had a similar experience. I lived here for 30 years. During the time that I've lived here, there's been hurricanes, there's been wildfires. We have 3 exits in and out of our neighborhood, one formal onto Nova, and then the 2 we all use to cut through the trails on Iroquois and Rio Pinar. We've had several hurricanes where the front entrance has been blocked. There's over 500 homes in our existing neighborhood. If we had a catastrophic event, a hurricane, a fire, anything like that, and one of our exits was cut off, not only would we have the existing homes in our neighborhood that would need to be exited safely, but we would also have whatever additional homes that were built on the golf course, if that was. Overwhelming, the developer from the very beginning. You know, I feel like this whole thing, a friend of me said on the break, this whole thing has been a bit of a lie from the beginning. We were told that the property was bought by 2 local developers, that they cared about the property, they cared about the neighborhood, and they were going to build something very nice and good for everybody. Then when they got pushed back, then they said, well, we can build 600 homes out there if we want to. Well, I think that was maybe, I'm going to use my time getting on a rant. Anyway, the developers think they have the right to develop it, and we have a right to live in a safe neighborhood. That's my bottom line. Thanks.
Thank you. Michelle Zirkelbach, followed by Randy Hendricks.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Zirkelbach from 328 River Bluff Drive, and I took the oath. I echo so many things that my partner in crime, Missy, said, in particular, thanking you for your service. And my heart was heavy with the patronizing tone that the applicant's side took at the beginning of the meeting, and I felt very awkward for the people that are here, because that is not how we've conducted ourselves, so I apologize for that. I will say that it's been an interesting process. I, too, have been at every meeting. I, too, have spoken at every meeting. I, too, have come to other commission meetings. I, too, have spent hundreds of non-billable hours opposing this, as has everybody on this side of the room and a few that are over on this side. And my question that I'm suddenly struck by is, where is the support for this process, their proposal? We've had a total of, to my record, 3, one of which was possibly a paid person on their behalf, who have spoken in favor through the planning board and the commission process. The citizens of Ormond Beach, not just the citizens of Tomoka Oaks, do not see this as a good fit or a good place for our community. I'm going to share with you that Missy and I waved signs on Nova Road and Main Trail on Friday, and we did it again on Monday. And I just want to share a snapshot of what I saw. I saw people going into Publix to shop. Shopping at Publix is a pleasure. Parking in our Publix right now, not so much. Don't know if you've tried it lately, but let's think about the impact of the additional homes that are being proposed. I also saw family after family after family bringing kids to go to volleyball. How do I know they're going to volleyball? Because that's where our children went to rec volleyball, and that's where my daughter is now leading the volleyball program, which by all appearances is twice as big, twice as much as demand as what was originally there. They share that gym with basketball, special populations, pickleball. Where's the facility going to be for all the families that are going to come that want to be in this? Who pays for that? Is there room at Nova Rec to add another building, to add more courts, to add these things? What else did I see? I'm a proud Volusia County teacher, and I saw one of our Tomoka Elementary students. He waved at me. He's so excited reading my sign. He's going to baseball. Again, where are we going to get more fields for these people that are coming? And then I think about that kid that's going to a brand new school next year, and I think about the budget cuts that have just happened. Are there going to be teachers? Was there a classroom accounted for this proposed development? Barbara Dolliner's right, it doesn't fit. My daughter's right, you can't put a square peg in a round hole.
Thank you. Frank Molnar.
Randy Hendricks. I live at 9 Tomoka View. My dad built a house in 1974. I've been around it 50 years. One more car on the Tomoka Oaks streets are too many. If they want to have built 500,000 homes there, let them, but there should be a separate ingress and egress out of the out of their new development, not in Tomoka Oaks. This is all about safety. You better not be using your cell phone or texting or anything. If you go any time of the day or night, people use the streets for pedestrian use, and any further development that puts more cars on the Tomoka Oaks streets is wrong. If you live in Tomoka Oaks and you want to go to Lowe's or something, you don't go out on Nova Road. You go through the trails and out onto Highway 40, and you put 200-300 more houses. They're not going to be piled up going into Nova Road. They're all going to be going through the Tomoka Oaks streets, getting out onto Nova Road and Highway 40. It's wrong. And if we don't have a zoning that fits that, then you need to add an additional zoning that says, okay, develop it however you want, build a bridge over the subdivisions or whatever, so you don't put any more traffic on our streets. It's wrong.
Thank you, Lynn.
Good evening, Frank Molnar, 1612 Turnbull. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. I've been a resident of this community since 1977. I'm not being paid to speak in favor of this project tonight. I've been involved in multiple development projects in Volusia County over the last 10 years. Just so this council is aware, the R2 zoning that is being requested by the developer is a lot size that is double the size of what majority of development projects that are being built not only through this county, but through the entire state of Florida. I'm confident that the developers of this project want to see quality homes go into this community and not only complement Tomoka Oaks, but also raise the standards of the entire community. One of the local projects I was involved with recently was bringing Taylor Morrison homes into Halifax Plantation. The homes that are being built in Halifax Plantation by Taylor Morrison are being built on 80-foot lots. These homes are priced at a range from $700,000 to over $1 million. It is my understanding that several residents in Tomoka Oaks really like the product that Taylor Morrison is building in Halifax Plantation. I believe this type of product that Taylor Morrison is building in Halifax Plantation would elevate not only the entire community of Tomoka Oaks, but also raise property values. The closed golf course property in Tomoka Oaks currently has no entitlement rights and has not had any for approximately 10 years. The owners of this property deserve to have development rights. I hope we can move forward in a positive direction and have more quality homes built in Ormond Beach that will add hundreds of millions of dollars to the tax base. It sounds like all of the residents in Tomoka Oaks would love to have sidewalks. Perhaps the city of Ormond Beach could use the millions of dollars that will be generated by the future homes in this community to put sidewalks through the entire community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. At this time, the Homeowners Association will have 10 minutes for rebuttal, followed by the applicant with 10 minutes for rebuttal. So, Dennis, you're recognized.
What a wild ride it's been. Dennis Barrett, again, on behalf of the interveners, Tomoka Oaks Homeowners Association. So, a couple things. Your decision was whether or not to rezone this property to R2. And as my opposing counsel pointed out, if we want to get intervener status at the next level in litigation, it'd be a higher burden. They've got a higher burden at the next level too to show that you've basically, A, either not followed the law, or B, you've abused your discretion in making the decision. So let's look at just the facts. When I was a young attorney, I had a mentor by the name of Walter Boardman, who's got the road down here named after him. And he said, when you go to a commission meeting or dealing with an issue like this, focus on the facts. If you have to rely upon threats or if you have to rely upon last-minute submissions and, have an open and fair discussion of the issues. And that's all my clients have tried to do since the very beginning. So in your record, and I don't know what was submitted tonight, and I would just, for the record, make a objection on due process grounds that if there's anything that's in the record that was submitted tonight that wasn't part of the prior hearings, that I would make an objection for that on appeal or whatever the case may be. But let's look at what is in the record that you've seen. Well, first off, you have an opinion from two very learned land use attorneys in Orlando that say that they could sue the city and make you keep it a golf course forever. That's in there. That's what attorneys are saying. Now you've heard tonight that if you don't approve R2 zoning, you can get sued for $40 million, which is a profit of about $130,000 per lot, which is a pretty good profit. But when you look at a takings claim, there's a number of legal factors that go into it, just like any other legal action. Well, one of them, what was the expectation when the developer bought the property? He had an expired development agreement on it. So a lot of times, or a development order. So it didn't have, if their argument is true that it had no entitlements, it had no entitlements when he bought it. In my legal practice up in Flagler County, I represent some of the larger landowners in the county, and just in the last 2 weeks, we've had potential developers or buyers come to my client and say, here's a letter of intent. I want to buy your property, this is how much I want to pay for it, but I want a 6-month due diligence period so I can determine what entitlements I have on the property. I can get it rezoned, I can get a certain number of units. So that's what you would look at in a takings claim. How did the person come into acquiring their rights in the property? What was the basis for what they're now claiming has been taken from them? Because I submit to you, nothing has been taken at this point. The record is clear. You've had testimony from Mr. Horowski, you've had staff reports from other planners, you've had staff reports from your own planner, and, or expert reports, and staff reports do evolve over time. Changes are made, inputs received, that's not an uncommon practice. But all of a sudden now it's something sinister to be concerned about. But the record clearly supports that there are development rights that go with this property. The planning board said that on 3 different occasions. We think there will be something on this property. You need to reduce the density, you need to address these other issues. So for them to say that they've lost all their investment-backed expectations, I don't think would pass the smell test if it got into the legal system. So our position is that this is a very unique property. Since 1961, it has been a golf course. The example that they gave to you tonight, vacant land, I-95 on one side, I think I count 1, maybe 3 lots that abut it, then you've got Timber Creek Road. Completely apples and oranges, it's a completely different set of circumstances. So that should have no bearing on your decision tonight. So our position is our request is you base your decision upon logic, the facts, and the record that's been properly provided to you tonight and deny the R2 zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. And Attorney Sanders for the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Listen, I think one of the speakers said it well earlier. I don't envy the position that you're in either. I don't. And it's not your fault that you have to make this kind of legal decision, and it's not something you asked for. It's something that, as you know, the courts require because the law was changed according to the courts of this state, so that in these types of proceedings, this body and any elected body of elected officials, the courts are telling you that you have to sit tonight and look at this case like a judge. You have to pretend to be a judge. That's what quasi-judicial is. It's not judicial, it's quasi, because you're not a judge. And the really difficult thing, as you know, is you're elected by popular vote. So as one of the ladies mentioned this evening, I don't see anyone here like on their side. Can't you count the number of people here that are in opposition to this? Well, of course you can. And if that's what you base your decision on, you know what will happen. The court will strike it down. You didn't ask to be put in that position, but that happened because of the law, but we're here. So I get it. I don't envy it. And so what do you have? The fact that my colleague, Mr. Baer, turns out that we have a mutual friend who's actually a very dear friend of both me and Mr. Baer. I didn't realize that. I talked earlier. I want to focus on something that he said. Talked about how his mentor said, You need to focus on the facts. I'd love to focus on the facts. I talked about facts extensively earlier, and I'll talk about them again. Mr. Bear referenced some facts of some case in some other county, in some other jurisdiction that happened at some point in time, this, that, and the other. We don't know anything about it, and he wanted to tell you what a takings case is. I'm not here to argue with you about what a takings case is or is not. This is the wrong forum for that. That's not what we're here for tonight. We're here on this application. And the issue is there a legitimate public purpose in refusing our application to change the label on the zoning map? That's the only issue. And if the law says no, then you don't have a choice on this type of application. Here's the choice that you had, and here's the unenviable position that you're in. When you have a PRD development order that expires, when these property owners bought this piece of land, you think they didn't do their due diligence? Seriously. They know what due diligence is. You think they didn't know what their options were? They did. They still do. They've got two options. Two options. Same options that you have to consider depending on which one they want to go with. Option one, amend the development order. Try to negotiate a new development order with a specific site plan. They tried option one. That was their first choice, was option one. Negotiate a deal. Ultimately, after about 3 years, it didn't work out. And that happens. And clearly, that happens where you have a community that's passionate about not seeing any development on what they've always known as a golf course. We all understand that. And that's a rational feeling to have as someone who lives next door to what has always been a golf course. But what happens is when you don't reach an agreement on the negotiation and the property owner elects to move forward with option two, which is to simply change the label on the map and be presented with zoning entitlements. When that happens, your options are very limited. There's no negotiations. We're not here, that's why we're not here to talk about a development order, because there is none. And that's why we're going with option two. Not because they didn't want to negotiate, they did. But they determined, in their opinion, at the end of the day, that it was pointless to move forward with that they were at an impasse. And that's their right to make that decision. It's their right. It's their property. So when Mr. Bear said, we need to focus on the facts. The facts? You know what the facts are? Your planning director did his job. He tried to. Your planning director said in his staff report, not Mr. Hayes' staff report, in your planning director's staff report, he said there are no zoning entitlements for this property. I don't need a case to show you that. I've got facts in this record. That's all we need. What you were presented with is a staff report that was drafted by your city attorney, not the work product of solely your planner. And is it common and is it okay to, I think the question posed by Mr. Bear, which is a reasonable question to his expert witness, was, well, don't your reports, your opinions, don't they evolve over time? Of course they do. When you spend time to look at anything, like you refine it and make it better. But I'm going to ask you to look at the record, again, that was submitted to you. That's not what happened here. Your staff person, who was literally working the week that everyone else is taking off for vacation, you know when he prepared his report and sent it? Just a few days before New Year's Eve. Most people take that week off. His staff report was sent to Mr. Hayes on the 27th. And Mr. Hayes initially replied, "This analysis will require great care. Don't know if I can get to this in time." Stephen then pushed back. I'm not comfortable postponing the meeting. I am comfortable with my analysis within the staff report. 2 days later, December 31st, gets an email reply from the city attorney with a report that I previously provided you. We, city attorney, will let you know if this stands as the final version. That's not collaboration. I rewrote it. And here's a red line, and you can see what I took out. And look at Mr. Spraker's response. Again, he did his job. He was trying to. His response, why did you take out what I put in there about there are no zoning entitlements with this PRD? That a PRD without a DO is a problem. Like, he saw the exact same thing that I saw when I saw the report. I was shocked. That's the very reason that our expert witness said this. It was unusual. Like, there was something like it's not right with this. Well, now we know what it is. And I don't want to speak more about that other than to say I'm making this point because it's important in the eyes of the law, and it's important to have a fair proceeding. And when any local government's city attorney sits up here and advises you in a quasi-judicial capacity, he's a counselor. They call us attorneys and counselors at law. You've seen those signs? Attorney, advocate. Counselor, listen, and guides you in the right direction. Don't give you my opinion. Don't give you facts. Don't tell you you're right, you're wrong. I'm here to make sure you follow the rules. That's what his job is tonight. It's not to testify, and it most certainly isn't to advocate against the application that is before you. And that's what you have in this record, and that's a real problem. With that being said, I'll sit down for the evening and just say again, I'll reiterate again what your staff initially said. We have no zoning entitlements under the existing PRD label. That label is nothing more than a color on a map. That's what we got. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Commission, this is our time for questions, deliberation. Does anyone have any questions?
I guess I can start, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
Well, I'm sorry.
Deputy Mayor Brother?
I guess I think someone said it tonight, they don't envy the situation we're in. And I don't either. I guess I do. It's kind of sad because you have good people sitting over here and you have good people sitting over here. And what it is, we can't come to an agreement on a piece of property. And I've got questions, some of these questions, I think most of them probably for our planning director. I guess one is, if you look at this subdivision in totality, it was originally built as the Tomoka Oaks subdivision, which was built prior to the Trail subdivision, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it was designed as a golf course community with 547 homes, somewhere around there, with one entrance and one exit, because that was prior to the trails. And it was designed that way without extra ingresses and egresses because it was a golf course community. At some point, the golf course was zoned or rezoned to residential. Even though it wasn't being used for residential, it was still zoned residential. So I guess my question would be, number one, if an applicant brought that project to the city today, let's just say Tomoka Oaks was a blank slate, and you have and someone laid out the 574 homes or 547 homes as they are, plus, and let's just say, I want to just throw a blanket number out, let's just say, because we had heard before maybe 284 homes under the PRD, would the city commission approve that, or would the planning department approve that type of project today with one ingress egress?
No, and it would also likely go through a planned residential development, right? So, there would be recreation provided for the new subdivision, there would be open space, there'd be extra natural preservation. So the planned residential development has its own set of criteria designed on benefiting the future residents of that subdivision. So access would certainly be one point that we looked at. We looked at by our civil engineer, we looked at the fire department, but yes, there would definitely be more than one entrance.
Sure. Because I think that is a safety issue. I think it's a safety issue today, to be quite honest. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, and I don't know what, it may be far-reaching, but, the Tomoka Oaks Homeowners Association is a voluntary homeowners association. The Trails, however, is not. It's a mandatory homeowners association. And I wonder if ever they say, wait a minute, way too much traffic, we're going to gate Iroquois and reopen R, therefore blocking any access into the trails from Tomoka Oaks and forcing all the Tomoka Oaks traffic into one ingress egress on a Nova Road. I won't say that's out of the realm of possibility, because I guess if they wanted to take over their roads and make a gated community, I guess it's possible. I don't know. But it's something to consider. Okay. I know that, this was originally prior to the PRD in 2006. This was zoned R2. I know that you have 5 classifications here of approved zonings for suburban low-density residential. R1, R2, R2.5, R3, and PRD. Was R1 ever considered? Because I know several people mentioned that this evening, several residents mentioned that this evening, but was R1 ever considered? And if it was, why was that not put out?
Right.
So of course, I know this was an applicant-driven request for R2, not R1.
Right. So I believe the staff report analyzed each one, and basically, based on the zoning prior and then the surrounding use, that was not one that was recommended, but that is one that is consistent. It's as consistent as any of the other 5, right? And again, at the beginning of the presentation, it is what is the most consistent, right? And the staff report goes through a number of twists and turns, and not only this staff report, but a lot of staff reports. So, we're appreciative of the city attorney's office in their communication and their advice, and saying, yes, you can recommend the PRD stay. So, it's all a process, and the key thing to remember is this is a open space area that was used for a golf course for over 60 years, right? So it's different than the Enclave, which actually went to 1 and 2 acre lots, by 95. So the existing conditions creates the unique characteristics, which creates the public purpose. So there's a reason why staff has recommended this go to the planned residential development, because that is the most appropriate way to try to come to some compromise between what the applicant is seeking and what the surrounding communities are saying. There's a number somewhere there which hopefully both sides don't like but they can live with. And we just haven't been able to get to that number. And staff still believes the planned residential development is the most appropriate way to get to that number. So that's the crux of our staff report and why we recommended what we did.
And one thing that, and I think you brought up, if that was proposed today, if that whole subdivision was proposed today, there would be pedestrian facilities throughout the subdivision.
Correct.
However, in 1962, when this was developed, Tomoka Oaks, and in the 1970s, when the trails were developed, we did not require sidewalks in our subdivision. So that still is, and I commend, obviously with this, if this were to be built, whether it be a PRD or R2 or whatever it's going to be, it would have pedestrian facilities. Unfortunately, the neighborhood, it's a neighborhood within a neighborhood. The outer neighborhood doesn't have those pedestrian facilities, and I think there is a safety aspect to consider. Now, we keep hearing, and I know this from, many years on the planning board, we've approved many PRDs in the past. And I guess they're saying there's, obviously there's negotiated densities and that type of thing with, and even lot sizes with a PRD. They're not, you're not stuck to a straight zoning as far as your lot sizes, your densities, that type of thing. They purchased this property. It was an expired PRD.
Correct.
Rezoned in 2006 from R2. I think at that time, Mr. Merrill was the attorney for the applicant that got it to to PRD from R2. And they had development rights. Now, I do agree with what's been said here tonight, that I don't think anyone has said something's not going to go there. I mean, there are some folks, I'm sure, in the audience that would rather it just be open, a park, nothing built there, but it has been zoned residential for many, many years.
Correct.
I commend the development team because they had many, at least 3 or 4 neighborhood meetings. They did go through the process. They listened to the residents. But at some point, I think we hit some sort of roadblock between the residents and the boards and the city, and it came down to density. It came down to lot sizes, it came down to buffers, it came down to traffic, it came down to density. And I think that there was a magic number like there was apparently in 2006 where the residents were at least satisfied and the applicant was happy that something like that could work. I wish that could be the case again, because I think then everyone kind of wins. That's the unfortunate thing I see here, is that I'm not going to say the applicant's threatening to go use the nuclear option, but I do think, and I don't, and something else I will say this too, and no real offense, but I don't appreciate getting things the night of the meeting, packets that I'm not going to sit here and read this because I'm going to listen to the folks that are up here to speak to us. I don't have time to read it, and if I read it after the meeting tonight, it's kind of, pointless. It's too late. But I just really wish, and I don't want to keep kicking the can down the road, but these two sides had come to some sort of agreement, because again, I don't think it's about we're not going to let you develop, it's just to what extent.
I think the key point is finding that tangent where the applicant and the residents and the city can live with whatever that magic number is, somewhere in the middle.
Would you agree, Stephen, that the PRD zoning classification does not prohibit development rights?
Yes, that is a fair statement. It allows a negotiation. I think the negotiation was ongoing in this application, then it was withdrawn, and this application was then selected.
That's all I have for right now, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And Commissioner Persis.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just thank you for your comments, Deputy Mayor Briley. You said some of the things that I wanted to say. This is a tough situation, but I first of all, before I get into my comments, I need to give a shout out to somebody. Carolyn Davis, I don't know if she's still here. There she is. Wow. Months ago, you gave me this, and I believe you gave them to everybody, but I know I got one. And I had time to read every single bit of what you put your time and effort into. And people in Ormond Beach are intelligent. They do their research. And Carolyn's not the only one that's done her research. Many of you that spoke tonight did your research, and I so appreciate that. I really believe that this meeting is going to come out just fine. But I do want to say this. I have my reasons that I would not want to change the zoning from PRD to R2, and I want to tell you why. First of all, the PRD aligns with our comprehensive plan on our land development code, bottom line, and that is so important. And it represents smart growth for our community. It doesn't adversely affect environmentally sensitive lands or natural resources or wildlife habitats. The traffic, we've heard over and over and over tonight about the traffic concerns, and they are real concerns if you drive through there, and which I drive through all the time. It's not good. The density of the proposed developments was just too high. Nobody said that we didn't want anything to go there. We asked, can't you just reduce the number, reduce it, and maybe make larger homes and just reduce the density? And we didn't get anywhere. The safety issue, and I always fall back on safety. Safety is so important to me, and that's always a number one decision maker for me, if it's safe. And I don't see this as being safe. This would alter the character. Too many homes is going to alter the character of the neighborhood of the trails in Tomoka Oaks. Clearly, it will. It won't be the same place, and just the total loss of green space. And of course, we need more medical care, and we need to look at schools. But I do not see any reason to change this. So I move to approve resolution number 2024-64.
It's option 2.
Option 2.
Is there a second? And then we'll continue discussion.
We can discuss after.
Do you want to hold your motion? We'll come back to
Can
you,
we-
Commissioner Persis.
I can hold it.
All right, Commissioner Tolland.
I wasn't quite sure this was the time for comments, but it seems that this is. And I had a question for Stephen, but actually it's part of my comments. So if you need to answer, feel free. Just some quick thoughts from tonight that wasn't part of I'm notorious for typing up notes before meetings, and I always get kind of razzed a little bit, but I don't want to miss any important points. But just thoughts from tonight. I really do think it was totally inappropriate and really rude to supply a document tonight, and I don't appreciate it. I like to read. I like to figure out where my thoughts are so I can ask intelligent questions. And for getting something right before a meeting starts, I think it's just totally rude. And I don't appreciate the convoluted threat either. The applicant does have an opportunity for entitlements, and Mr. Sanders called it negotiate a deal to option 1. We had plenty of opportunities to negotiate with option 1. We had neighborhood meetings. We had SPRC meetings. We had planning board meetings. Came to a commission meeting. Went back to the planning board, and now it's back up to us without any really significant changes. I think we lowered the density by 4 houses. To me, that's nothing significant. You guys, I love you in the community, but you didn't hear the residents, you didn't hear the planning board, and you haven't heard what some of the commissioners are saying now. So that was my thoughts for tonight. But this is what I want to say officially. A planned residential development is the most appropriate zoning for the development of the old golf course. A PRD best meets the goals of the city's comp plan and the development codes regulations while promoting smart growth. There is nothing smart about R2 zoning in the middle of the proverbial donut. It will create undue crowding and adversely affect safety, welfare, and the quality of life of the surrounding neighborhood. It's not consistent with the comp plan. Although it encourages development of single-family homes, it does not stabilize and protect the character of the surrounding neighborhood. The distribution of housing is not consistent with sound planning and principles and goals. According to our policy 1.13, it does threaten to alter the neighborhood character. 1.1.5, it's not innovative in design. 1.114 does not enhance the central core of the older sections of the city to encourage appropriate walkable residential. And 2.4.7, this development does not promote open space. The goal of a zoning map is to assign the most appropriate zoning based on the unique and special character of the golf course land. The R2 may be similar with the abutting residential development, but the existing PRD is best suited in overall design in regards to standards of recreation, open space, and natural preservation. I believe this land was a missed opportunity in the past to acquire for open space and recreation. That said, I also believe that the 2006 Low Impact Development Resolution and the PRD zoning is the optimal choice for today for the following reasons. Roads. The perimeter road was designed to serve Tomoka Oaks community and has not changed in more than 60 years. Additional increased density only puts a strain on the already bursting road system. Even with proposed enhancements and stacking and egress and ingress and all that other stuff, the roads will be unsafe and not compatible with existing development. Open space. 2006 development provided open space with infill development that did not intrude on the existing homes. The PRD provides guidelines to preserve that open space. Density. The increased density of people and cars will threaten the quality of life. We didn't talk about the architecture of design. A PRD offers flexibility in design of homes and does not promote the cookie cutter style seen in so many of the developments today. And flexibility. A PRD provides opportunities to discuss driveways compatible with increase in number of cars per home and buffers protecting the residents from the infill. This property is unique. It is historic, special, and must be treated as such. We have one opportunity to do this right, and a planned residential development is the only option I see to move forward, giving the developer the opportunity to build something appropriate and complementary with the existing neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sargent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think when I was reviewing the planning board minutes, August 10th, 2006, it was said perfectly by Robert Merrill, who was representing the developer at the time, when he said, "This project is the poster child for smart growth principles." And I think in 2006, the commission at the time, which Mr. Mayor, you were on, and two of our mayors, they got it right then. That was right. And then here we are today, and let's start off with this project. It started off with neighborhood meetings. We're listening to the residents. Tell us what we want. I mean, how many times did we hear that? Tell us what you want. And then when it came before the city commission out at Calvary, Commissioner Persis said, how about 120 homes? Then there was no negotiation. That was it. No negotiation. So I don't think there was any negotiation. Yes, that might have been a very low number. Yes, the developer might not have been to make a profit. But that was the point for negotiation on the density, and that did not occur. And then a couple of days after that, I spoke with Mr. Veely, and he asked me, what number do you think we could get to? And I said, well, I don't think it's appropriate because we said it's time to go back to the planning board with a different project. And then now here we are. So we start off very positive, we work with the residents, and then we get to tonight where we get packets handed to us, packets. By the way, I was up last night at 3 in the morning rereading stuff. I don't appreciate this. And then we come here and we're threatened. I mean, how do we start off with, we want to listen to the residents, to now we're under threats? doesn't sound very good to me. I'm sorry. I'm just very frustrated that this is the way we come in here and get treated. I'd like to thank all the residents for all the hard work and for staying out here. It's 9:30 on a Tuesday night. We volunteered to do this. I mean, we asked for this. I appreciate y'all coming out and having your voice heard, and we appreciate that. This land was purchased under a PRD. Nothing changed. It was purchased under a PRD. And another inconsistency, Stephen, if you can correct me, or the lot size, the minimum lot size under R2 is, I believe, 100 by 100.
Correct, 100 feet in width and 100 feet in depth.
Okay, and then when we were at the last commission meeting, this was brought before us at Calvary. We were told 100 by 100 was not profitable, or they were not being sold in today's market. I believe like 80 by 60 or 80 by 80 or something to that effect. So now we're being, threatened. Now we're being told that they want 100 by 100 lots. We're going to reduce all the buffers. I mean, the residents of Ormond Beach deserve better than this. And I just can't go along with this. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'm done.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I was here in 2006. That project sailed through. I don't remember one person speaking against it. And it was smart growth at the time. We had concerns, we had questions, but all of those were answered and worked through, and ultimately we approved the, I think, 119 or 122 lots, and it preserved the golf course. It fit. It made sense on what is an exceptionally unique piece of property. We call it the donut hole. A neighborhood or an area within a neighborhood. It just makes sense to use PRD zoning to protect not only the city as a whole, but the residents who live adjacent to this piece of property. Using the competent substantial evidence standard that our attorney indicated is what's required, I'm not even sure that the applicant has produced evidence. It had the initial burden to produce evidence to show why the rezoning application should be approved under the comp plan and land development regulations. I'm not sure that they've even met that, but for the purpose of argument, assuming they did, then the burden would shift to those in opposition to the rezoning to produce evidence that the rezoning application should be denied under the comp plan and land development regulation. I believe that's what Commissioner Persis is going to move here in a few minutes. I think there is competent, substantial evidence that is credible, relevant, and material to accomplishing the goals and policies of our comp plan and LDRs, such that a reasonable mind would accept it as adequate to support the decision. And I look at the unanimous planning board recommendation of denial of the R2, 7-0, after a number of hearings, number of public meetings, a lot of back and forth. I also look at planning staff's report, which recommends denial as well. I think that's definitely substantial, competent evidence. And then we can use, as a commission, to make these determinations regarding what is competent, substantial evidence, professional opinions from engineers, architects, and planners. And I have to tell you, Commissioner Sargent, I read every word of this packet as well. I've been reading and dealing with this project for the last 2.5 years or so, as we all have, as you all have, and it's been one of the most time-consuming, contentious issues that I can ever recall this city dealing with. But I was impressed with Tom Horowski's very detailed report. Incredible career with lots of experience, and so that hit home with me as substantial evidence. Also, the testimony from laypersons tonight regarding density and traffic also hit home. I find that as substantial competent evidence. And I believe moving forward, as everyone said, that a PRD really is the best way to protect our land development code and our comp plan, which is the whole purpose of that is to protect our city and protect our existing residents. So with all that, I will now turn to Commissioner Persis for a motion.
Okay. All right, I move to approve resolution number 2024-64.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Commission, any further discussion?
My only comment, Mr. Mayor, was I just wish this could be negotiated and resolved, because I do think that, I think most people here agree that something's going to happen there. I think it's just to what extent, but that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Please call the vote.
Should I read the title?
Yes, you may. Sure.
Resolution number 2024-64, a resolution of the City of Ormond Beach, Florida, approving an order of denial, denying a request by Triumph Oaks of Ormond Beach 1 LLC to rezone 147.94 acres generally located at 20 Tomoka Oaks Boulevard from planned residential development PRD to single-family low-density residential R-2 and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2024-64, read by title only.
Thank you, Susan. We do have a motion and a second. I don't believe there's any further discussion. This is a resolution approving an order of denial. So a yes vote would approve an order of denial. I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. Please call the vote.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes.
Commissioner Briley.
Yes.
Commissioner Tolland.
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent.
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you all. We'll close. We're going to close the public hearing, and if you could be as quiet as you could on the way out. Commission, we're going to go to 9A, and I'll ask the clerk to read 9A by title only, please.
Ordinance number 2024-01, an ordinance regarding...
Susan, hold on just one second. If I could get just quiet as you exit. We still have business to do, so please, if you don't mind, exit quietly. Thank you all again for being here. Susan, if you would, read 9A by title only.
Ordinance number 2024-01, an ordinance regarding the office of mayor and city commissioners for zone 1 through 4 by providing for calling a primary municipal election of the registered electors of the city of Ormond Beach to be held on August 2024, providing for and calling a regular municipal election of the registered electors residing in the city of Ormond Beach to be held on November 7, 2024, providing for qualifying and election procedures, establishing a date for taking office, authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding for services and matters with the County of Volusia, providing for severability, and setting forth an effective date. This is the second reading of ordinance number 2024-01, read by title only.
Thank you, Susan. I don't have any cards.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Briley.
Yes.
Commissioner Tolland.
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent.
Yes.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes, and we will move to reports, suggestions, and requests, and we start with City Manager Joyce Shanahan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be quick. First of all, we have one commissioner that has a conflict with the strategic plan initiative workshop we have on May 21st. So I'm wondering if May 20th works for anybody. I think that's a Monday. No, it doesn't. How about May 28th? Does that work for anybody?
I think you have to 28.
Okay. Let's see. Do you have a calendar? What about, what was the first week?
So the 21st, right?
Do you think we can do that? No. So I'm trying to find a date that we can have another meeting to talk about the strategic initiative for upgrading the chamber technology and land use study for Riverbend and the FDOT I-95 interchange. And we've got several other workshops that are already scheduled.
May 16th, is that too late? May 16th?
Are we going to do the 14th, maybe the Tuesday between commission meetings?
That works for me. 14th and 16th.
14th is fine for me.
That'd be a Tuesday.
That's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
So what are you saying, May?
14th.
Okay, we'll make sure that staff is available, so we'll tentatively set it for that. So thank you very much for that. I shared with you all my meeting notes from my meeting with the superintendent of schools. Was that today? Or is it today? It's a long day. So I think it went well, and I think we've opened a dialogue to continue to work together jointly moving forward, especially with regard to Osceola. We do have a number of workshops planned. May 7th is the strategic planning initiatives for the new PD and EOC. We have, state funding for that, so we're going to move forward with that and talk to you about where we plan to go with that. 56 North Beach Street. We'll talk about the usage of that. We got state money for that as well, but there was no specific location identified. So we'll come to you with some alternate options in the future on that. You got a full calendar the rest of before your July 4th holiday break. June 4th is the proposed budget CIP workshop. And then you go on a brief break, and then July 16th is when we would discuss our operating budget, and July 23rd would be a regular meeting only. We have received partial payment from our insurance claim regarding the PAC. Paul Davis Restoration is recommending that the city pursue a secondary provider to clean the air ducts in the building, and quotes are currently being secured for that. Staff continues to meet with BOMAR to establish cost estimates for the rebuild, and once received, we'll put that on a future agenda. BOMAR and their subs are still in the process of obtaining materials and will be ready to go when the contract is awarded. So we're trying to lessen that time. We're doing work now until we move forward with that. A couple of other things. There was a concern that we might need to do appoint an alternate to the opiate abatement task force because sometimes the mayor can't go. So is it okay if I bring back a resolution for that, Mr. Mayor and Commission?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. I don't think it was that
I'm sorry?
it wasn't that I couldn't go, it's just they had the option
No,
to.
I didn't mean that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, to have and there's no concern about it. I think it's great that we get to appoint somebody, if there's anybody interested, that would be a backup, just in case.
And most of all of our committees have an alternate, just in case there's a conflict with someone's schedule. So I didn't mean to imply that you couldn't go. So we'll bring that forward to you, and I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for the city manager?
Before she puts another foot in her mouth. Thank you.
Thank you. Assistant City Manager Claire Whitley.
No comments, thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney Randy Hayes. No? You didn't want to give us a dissertation on, all right. And tonight, excuse me, we start with, who do we start with, Susan?
I think it's Travis.
I should know.
Commissioner Sargent.
You're right.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Sargent, you're up.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to just say thank you, Stephen. Thank you for you and your staff. Awesome work. Really appreciate you. Randy, thank you for everything you do as well. Really appreciate it. It's not easy having people come in and threaten us, but really appreciate all the hard work that y'all do, especially working the week when most lawyers take off, I guess, from what he said. So, appreciate that. One thing that's of concern to me is the aviation board. I've brought this up before. I'd like to see them to start meeting more regularly. They only met once in 2023.
They already have a meeting scheduled for, I think, next week. So they meet as needed, but I've already had a discussion with Brian about making sure that's at least quarterly.
Thank you, because as we know, the fund's not operating in the black, and I think they should meet to help advise us how we can do better. Thank you, Joyce, and staff for putting up the signs on the property across from 56 North Beach Street on the river. We had some people that were camping overnight, and I had a resident call me. I called Joyce. Within the next day, we had 3 signs put up. They couldn't believe it, but thank you. There is an issue behind here, Ms. Shanahan. The church, I'm not sure the street, over here by the elementary school on the back side, they do a food pantry on Fridays. I think it's once a month, and the traffic is horrendous. I mean, they line up down the street, and just people can't get to the school. And I'm all for, obviously, there's a huge need, and it's great to see that they're fulfilling it. But if we can maybe help them with a traffic pattern of some sort, just to see how we can facilitate that would be great.
Yeah, PD usually helps them with that. And I noticed this last weekend that they were actually parked in the parking lot instead of lining up on the street. So it's a work in progress, but we hear you.
Well, the mayor's brother-in-law called me because it's my zone, so
Okay.
I had to bring it up.
It's going to be trouble.
I had a couple more items here. I'd like to, I talked to 2 of the police officers that are going on the Unity Tour, and they were a little bit short on their funds. And it was just great that I was able to make some phone calls to some residents who don't want their names out there, but they were able to fill that need. And I just would like to publicly say thank you to those that donated to Officer Summerlot and Medina to make sure they got over the goal of $2,000. It was great. And it happened so quickly, like within hours of me making phone calls, they were at their goal. And it's great that we have citizens that are willing to step up and do that. The technology, I don't know if y'all been in room 103 yet, but we have a smart board in there. Part of the new technology, and it's very impressive. I just saw it today for the first time, and it's pretty cool. And with that, I'll say good night. I think it's been a long enough night. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Persis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank Attorney Hayes for tonight. I know you had to sit there very quietly. Is he there? Oh, he just left. He just walked out. But anyway, I still want to say it. I think he's done a great job looking out for us and representing us. And I just wanted to personally thank him for that. I really do. I wanted to let everyone know I was happy to attend the Green Turtle Kava Cafe ribbon cutting. And what a place it is. And I really didn't know what kava was, so I had to look it up. So here's what I found out. Kava is derived from the pepper plant. The indigenous people of South Pacific drink kava to unwind and reset. People have become increasingly interested in the concept of natural and herbal remedies to treat diseases and ailments in today's society, so kava has become more popular and well-known. So the Green Turtle Cafe is located next to Jersey Mike's at the Ormond Town Square Shopping Center if you'd like to try it out. I think you might like it. It's very different. Also, I have a First Step Shelter update. There has been, and this is really good news, there's been an increase in referrals for seniors, and we now have over 70 people daily. In March, there were 15 residents aged 65 or older, and of these, 9 needed shelter when their leases ended, and they could not afford the rent increase. The good news is last month, the Daytona Beach Housing Authority started a pilot program called the RAD program for people over age 62 and older. The Housing Authority asked the First Step Shelter to pilot the program with them. We submitted 9 residents, and 5 of them have met the criteria, which was wonderful. The First Step Shelter was also able to successfully house 5 of 12 veterans we had in the shelter last month and helped another veteran into a rehab facility in addition to helping 6 other residents into various types of housing. March was a good month for the shelter. On the average, they housed someone every other day. The board also changed the meeting to the second Monday of the month, so I will be able to attend more meetings, which I'm very happy about. The other news is due to members on the board having conflicts. They did change, again, they changed the meetings from the 4th Monday of the month, and they will now meet on the 2nd Monday of the month, which will not pose any problem for me to attend. And lastly, I was invited to attend the Fast Fly-In, and that'll be May 21st through 24th. And this is a biannual event that attendees meet with members of Florida's congressional delegation to discuss key federal issues that affect municipalities like ours. So, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, I wanted to let you know I will be missing a meeting, which would be May 21st. So I just wanted to let you all know about that. So, and with that, I'll say good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Deputy Mayor Briley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just go ahead and say ditto. I want to thank our planning staff and our city attorney, Mr. Hayes, for guiding us through the process this evening. I know this is probably one of the most difficult and probably one of the longest issues we've had to deal with. Randy, I know this is your 31st year as city attorney. This is probably one of the longest and biggest ones you've had, probably. So at least it ranks up the top 5, I'm sure. Yeah. I had an opportunity last night to attend the YMCA dinner at the Hard Rock, and let me just tell you this: our Volusia Flagler YMCA is absolutely awesome. The things they do with the resources they have, I mean, they don't turn anyone away based on their financial ability or inability to pay to be a member of the YMCA. And we are just, I think, the board of the YMCA has been led in the past few years by Charlie Lidecker. He's done a fantastic job. I think that board and with Charlie's leadership has really turned the YMCA organization in Volusia and Flagler counties around. I think they are very blessed to have Charlie and the leadership there. We're very blessed to have them in the city of Ormond Beach, and kudos to the YMCA. And lastly, Mr. Mayor, I'll just end with this. May 3rd, you all have a flyer on your dais. We're having a fundraiser at the Daytona Beach Area Association of Realtors for Corporal Becase's family, and it's free to attend. The O'Quinns from O'Quinn Insurance are doing their world-famous hot dogs for a donation. And we'll have an ice cream truck there, a cannoli truck. There'll be about 70 vendors there. It'll be kind of like a home show and trade show type thing. We did a Facebook Live this morning with Chief Godfrey and Captain Roos and Corporal Summerlot. So it'll just be a real good time for a very good cause. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll say good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And Commissioner Tall.
Yep. Thank you. Just piggybacking on what you just said, Harold, was not now that Charlie's retired, Troy Railsback will be stepping up for that leadership role, and he's done a wonderful job on our planning board, and I'm really proud that we still have that leadership moving forward. I do want to thank Lindsay for coming up and talking about Ormond Beach being the hallmark town. I like that little saying. And giving kudos to Parks and Recreation. That's very dear to my heart, and I think with the dedicated millage that we're doing now and the ECHO grants that we received, I think we're going to start seeing some real good movement with Parks and Recreation, so thank you. And Suzanne Schreiber wanted to see if we could get some letters from the advisory boards in opposition of Belvedere. Is that something that we can, how can we go about to let the chairman of these advisory boards know that this is something that's asked? I don't know if that's appropriate or what we can do.
Well, you know, the roles of the boards are guided by the duties that are prescribed in the Code of Ordinances and the Land Development Code. So if it fell within the parameters of what their role is as a governing board, then arguably they could discuss it and agree to the format of a letter, the same as you do here.
Okay.
Right? So there may be some basis for that, to the extent that the request falls outside of their duties. They probably wouldn't have the broad authority to do that, but I don't know that there would be necessarily anything that would prohibit that from happening if they really wanted to do that. But I think that's something that the boards could take up separately on their own. And so perhaps somebody could appear before a board and make the recommendation or the suggestion, or the staff liaison person could present that to the board and ask if they might be interested in discussing that as a board, and then either authorizing the chairperson to author a letter on behalf of the board, or perhaps have a pro forma of a letter prepared and presented so that they could approve it, because they would say they would have the same challenges as you do here, in the sense that the board members could not go to the staff liaison and make changes to the letter, right, without coming back to them. So there are some pitfalls, but the short answer
is not
is
an easy
answer. Well, no, I think it can probably be done.
Okay.
But we can give some
Okay.
guidance on that.
All right, thank you. I also want to thank Joyce for helping the Jewish festival get those banners put up. I know that they were really worried about that right before the event, and thank you for doing whatever magic you do. I also want to officially thank Sean Finley. This morning I got a call from a resident. I was getting ready for another meeting, and it was a business owner in the plaza by Jimmy John's. Yeah, Jimmy John's. And I guess MetroNet decided to just put a big old motor in their parking lot. I mean, and this business only has a couple parking spaces. So in my lack of technology skills, and I was trying to find Sean's business number, I mistakenly called his cell, and then I decided, well, I might as well just tell you what the problem is. By that was 9 o'clock this morning. By the afternoon, he said that's an easy fix, and I had texted the business owner right before the meeting, and she was very grateful that Sean went over there, got them removed out of her parking place. So, that's the kind of staff that we have, and that's what I think, as all of us as commissioners really appreciate, and public doesn't always recognize. So I'm very grateful to him for that. And then, of course, lastly, Randy, Steve, and staff, you offer your expertise for complex issues, and we are really grateful for that. And I really feel bad that sometimes public can I don't want to say crucify you, but they can say things about you that aren't always true. And I really appreciate the expertise that you provide for all of us. I know we go to you individually, but you do help us with these very complex issues. We want to do what's right for the residents because we represent them, but we also don't want to put the city and say stupid things and put the city in a very liable way. So really appreciate your expertise and your guidance, and never have I ever felt that when I've asked for help or questions was I ever told what to do or the answer. I was always giving, this is what you can do, this is what these are all your options, and I really appreciate that. So thank you. And the only other thing is I did ask the question about the signage and if the commission wanted to follow through with any of that, asking staff to look at it. I know Harold had shook his head. I don't know if the rest of you are interested. It's not like it's pertinent. The electronic signage. It's not something that has to be done now, but maybe if you guys are agreeable, we can kind of put it on an agenda down the road for planning to look at. But if you guys need to see if that's something you want to do, I think.
Yeah, I think down the road is fine. We've been through it a couple times over the last however many years. Planning definitely needs to weigh in on it. The planning board would need to weigh in on it, and then, because it's a slippery slope, but
Yeah,
I think
don't
it can
want it
look
to-
better. You know, that's why I voted for the thing tonight, because I think it actually looks better.
Right.
But when you get too much of it, I mean, it needs to be, to me, it needs to be on a case-by-case basis, every
Correct.
single one, and then have strict regulations as far as how often it flashes, how bright it can be, where it's located, all that kind of stuff.
Location, and all the parameters. I'm not trying to open up the can of worms. I just wanted to just be revisited, that's all.
Mr.
So-
Mayor, I would just agree that there needs to be some sort of regulation, and at the risk of workshopping things to death and having workshops for workshops, but it may be a workshop item, I don't know, but I do think there's some merit to it, and it should be, if nothing else, have some regulations if we're going to have it.
Great.
Would we want to start with the planning board first?
I
Mr.
think
Mayor,
that's the
or-
appropriate place, yeah.
So,
Is that,
Yeah.
okay.
and the commission can workshop that January of '25.
Yeah.
I think at this rate, we've got a lot of workshops coming up.
And that was my last comment, so thank you guys, appreciate it.
All righty. I was pleased on the consent agenda to see the drainage project at Fleming finally happening. The no-name storm of '09 that in 2.5 days dropped like 27, 28 inches on us and created such flooding really drew attention to that issue. We've had a lot of success managing that, but this will further help ensure that we never have the flooding in homes that we did back then, so that's fantastic. I, along with many other members of the commission, attended Advent's grand opening of their new facility last Thursday. I think it was a $48 million facility, and they've got other great things that are going to be happening. I think we may even get a report here in the next couple meetings. I'm looking forward to that. Some really needed improvements in the healthcare system in our area. The Jewish Heritage Festival was great. I saw y'all out there, and our residents, I think, enjoyed it. Our chief and the sheriff did an amazing job keeping everybody safe, working together, and that was a very successful event. So pleased to see that. I don't know if anybody saw the camel. But did you ride it? Awesome. Yeah, it's a cool thing. And then I'll close just by saying thank you to Susan and Travis, and Lori and Harold, for that matter, for taking the time to travel. It's a lot of extra work, whether it's the fast fly-in, whether it's the National League of Cities, whether it's the police memorial, but important work that happens at those events. So thank you all for doing that. And with that, we are adjourned.